Okay, there it goes. It takes a second for the software to open so I can talk. Because I have to open like a special software for like my XLR mic. Because yeah, because of how it works. Let me turn the music down. Sorry if it's loud. Oops. There we go. How is everyone doing today? We're gonna go over the Naoki Squared panel. I believe it's officially called Naoki's Room. So we're gonna go through that. Really looking forward to it. Because some very interesting comments were made about Final Fantasy XVII, about remaking FF6, 8, and 9. And I want to talk about that. So we'll go through the interviews. Type 0 back on Friday then. We might bring it back. But no one cared about Type 0. It was so sad. I was streaming it and then the viewership just tanking. So I might just finish it off stream and do the video. We'll see. I'm doing good, Phoenix. Thank you for asking. Damn, man. Yeah, I know. I like Type 0, but I gotta forget that, like, FF fans as a whole do not give a damn. Very sad. Type 0 combat isn't the most exciting for streaming. It's not. It's not a good stream game at all, to be honest. But it is a good obscure video. Type 0 views. That's fucked up. But true. It's okay. We're still gonna do a video on Type 0. We'll still do a retrospective video on it. Today's stream may not be quite as long as like a normal stream, by the way. We'll still go like at least 2-ish hours. But I am working on something that you will soon see the fruits of soon. And it is currently occupying a lot of my time. So I hope that you guys look forward to that. Cook as long as you need, King. Thank you. Yeah, so it's gonna be something good. Have you tried any of the Trails games? Yes, I played Trails in the Sky, and I still need to finish the final chapter of the first chapter. But I got like 45 hours in. Anyways, I am excited to take a look at this panel. There has been a lot of discourse. There's been a lot of talking on the interwebs apparently about you still haven't finished it. Yeah, no, it kind of started to drag a little bit for me toward the end there, and I was like, okay, let me take a break, and then I didn't come back to it. But I think I'm gonna come back to it because the second chapter is coming out in September, and everyone tells me that the second chapter is like where the story like really picks up and is really good. So I'll finish it for September. OG or the remake? The remake. You were close to the final dungeon. You had mainly set pieces left. I reckon 10 hours at most. Oh wow, really? Yeah, because I played off stream for a little while, and I was at like the little tournament thing. So I suppose that's what you mean by like set piece stuff. But we're gonna finish it. I'm determined to not leave that game unfinished. But this is also kind of just like the sorry state of NSP. Where I just like, yeah. Will I stream second chapter? I don't know. I don't know if like streaming big RPGs is wise. Because they take so many streams to do, and it kind of like weighs down the flow of it. I would probably, at the very least with first chapter, I would stream like the ending. What I'm actually thinking about doing for like RPGs, maybe, because it's not like I don't want to stream RPGs, but I feel like maybe I should just stream like the beginning to get me in the game, and then I stream like the last few chapters of the ending. Because I feel like it's just so hard to do, right? And then another problem with streaming, like if I'm doing like mainline Final Fantasy titles, they're easy to stream on here. Viewership's good. And then also too, it's just really easy to get through. Everyone knows the story of the game too. So people don't tune out because they're like, oh, I haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake yet, or Final Fantasy 15 yet. So let me leave. So like my regular viewers don't drop. And also I always have a good estimation of how long a Final Fantasy game is going to take to stream. Like I know exactly how many streams that'll take. So usually that's pretty easy, right? But like when it comes to like RPGs, for example, yeah, for starters, you have a ton of side content, and then you start doing the side content, and then it takes forever to do the side content, and then it just all starts adding up and is really complicated. I have been trying to find a way to consistently stream narrative RPGs, and I have not fucking found it. Not in a way that doesn't like end up taking multiple streams where we could be making other content that everyone can come and watch, and it gets really complicated. And I know that's kind of like a lame thing to say out loud. I don't even like saying it out loud because it is a lame thing to actually admit. But it's just complicated. So true, the VA of Riku from KH was streaming Persona 5 Royal for a year, maybe longer than that, and finally finished it in March or April, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And that's really, really, really long. And then you don't want to drop the playthrough because it feels like it's an insult to people who started watching. But then you don't want to like keep going either, because it's just like, this feels like it kills the interaction for the people who regularly show up to the streams, and then they stop regularly showing up because they're like, I don't want to watch this shit. Sorry, bro. So then it's like, what do you do? Right? That's why streaming JRPGs is like so complicated, I feel. I think streaming JRPGs works though if you're doing retro JRPG streams. Like one of the RPG streams I wanted to do is Xenogears, because believe it or not, I never played Xenogears. So I wanted to stream Xenogears, and I actually do feel like that would actually work. Like I think if I actually streamed Xenogears, yeah, or like Legend of Dragoon. I think if I did those streams, that would be fine. I think retro stuff is okay, but I think if it's like modernity slop, people don't care as much. Chrono Trigger, yeah, I would stream Chrono Trigger or something like that. Although I've played Chrono Trigger. You should just stream whatever you feel like, and if a game drops off or isn't hitting for you, just play something else. Yeah. I don't know if you agree, NSP, but I found Type 0 a bit repetitive and grindy at times when I played it. Curious if that has to do with the viewership drop. Yeah, no, I mean, it does. It's a PSP game, and it's meant to be mega grindy, because it's meant to be like you're going on like the bus, on the train, more like in Japan. You're going on the train, and yeah, salaryman gaming. 100%, bro. Yeah, and it's meant to be that type of grind. right? Like it's meant to be like, okay, I'm in school, we're at lunch, I'm gonna knock out like a mission or whatever the fuck, a request. That's why Crisis Core is also designed like that. It's also designed to be like, oh hey, here are these like super repetitive missions filled with enemies that you've already fought in the main campaign, but you can find them again and get stronger and get like cool materia and stuff, and you can do that. And that was like mobile game design for the 2000s. That's what they did. And now we look at that and we think, what the fuck? That was such a terrible idea. No one wants to do that shit. But at the time, bros, at the time, it made sense. It was gaming. That's how it was. So, are you going to live stream FF Resolution? I assume you mean Resonance. But yeah, I'll probably live stream Resonance. Or I guess my hope is that I'll be live streaming my second playthrough of Resonance, and that I'll have like one of those nice review codes to have a day one review up for you guys. I think would be ideal. I saw your weight loss progress. That stuff is inspiring. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm like down. Well, I guess like the weight loss has finished progressing, because I don't know if I can get much leaner than this. I mean, I can. I don't know if it'd be wise to get much leaner than this stuff. My abs already show. I could go down to single digit, but once you hit single digit, you're doing it for the bros at that point. you're doing it for yourself, but like you're certainly not doing it for the appeal of the opposite sex anymore at that point, because I don't think any woman finds single digit body fat that hot. At least to my knowledge. You don't need to lose any more weight. Stop now, please. Yeah, no. I'm good, bros. I'm good. I don't have like an exact estimate of my body fat, but I would assume that it's like somewhere between 10 and 12. Women want something to grab onto, bro. Can't be bones. Yeah. 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 I don't know, man. You get that lean, uh it's it's for the bros at that point. And also, yeah, debatably not healthy. Mog, thank you so much for this super. Thank you for being you, Kupo. I appreciate that, Mog. You're the best. Thank you so much. Get that 7R Dio body, brother. I want that JoJo's Dio body. I want that fucking I want that Dio back. You know what I'm saying? That shot of him. Well, actually, let's be real. That's Jonathan Joestar's back, but Dio's head is on it. So, if you don't know what JoJo is, then you're probably wondering like what the fuck does he mean by that? That's so ominous. What does he mean his head was on? Don't worry about it. 13% is the lowest a man should go for health. You could probably hit 10. Maybe. 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 Okay, so let's go ahead and pull the panel up. Shout out to Black Lion Guard for actually like finding the timestamp for the panel for me. Go ahead and put these in instead of using the big old bulky ass Which Dio? Dio Jonathan, aka Dio, all caps. I'm talking about that Dio. Dio Jonathan. So really, I guess I'm trying to say I want Jonathan Joestars back. Is what it really is. Are we checking out both? Both what? Because I was planning on watching the Naoki's Room for sure. And then if there's like anything else, I don't know. But so let me see. Let me pull this up. Oh shit. Let me change the audio source to okay, and then let me actually pull it up. You want to give your head to your muscle, bro? Gotcha. Give head to buff guys. Thank you, Cross. That's what homies do. They give head to each other, chat. Okay, let's let's watch. Let's watch the thing. Oh shit. Let me see if I need to adjust the cropping. Goddamn cropping changes all the time. That's literally fucking JoJo's. You're not wrong, honestly. JoJo's is literally like, what if there was an anime about giving head to your bros? Kinda. Low key. Yeah. That's like the core conflict, actually. Okay, and then if I just hit fit the screen, oh man. Wow, and there's still like a little bit of, fuck it, I'll just stretch that bitch out. Boom. And then it's still, god damn it. Okay, there we go. There we fucking go. Let's give this a watch. I'll boost audio.
Now, Yoshida-san, of course, this is your room, this is your show, so please take it away.
Okay.
Oh wait, hold on, real quick.
Final Fantasy
We got
XIV
some
producer
stuff happening. Kingdom Trigger, first of all, thank you so much for this super chat. If they're joking about FF17 now, do you think that means we will likely get it before 2030? I feel like they wouldn't mention it if it was that far off. I do believe that we are close to Final Fantasy XVII's announcement, like way closer than people think. The reason is because Final Fantasy XVI was announced 4 years after Final Fantasy XV released. And now, next year, it will be 4 years after Final Fantasy XVI released. Which, yes, that is disturbing as hell that time has passed by and Final Fantasy XVI will be 4 years old next year. That is just insane. I can't even believe that. But yes, also, there's another important thing that's happening next year, and that's the release of Final Fantasy VII Revelation. And I think after Revelation is announced, or I mean, after Revelation is released, they're going to want to start talking about what's next with FF, and it only makes sense for them then to start talking about Final Fantasy XVII. Thunders, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs, dude. Gift memberships. Different terminology on YouTube. I appreciate you. How are you doing today, buddy? Roy Mustang, thank you for a super chat. NSP, why are there so many video game LARPers nowadays? There are so many RE and Persona fans that have never played a single game in the series. It's easy to engagement bait. Because we live in a world where, you know, playing the game is kind of irrelevant when you can make content and posts about the game, which is how people seem to like prefer engaging with games nowadays anyway, rather than actually playing them. Holy shit, subtext. My guy, thank you for the super. Big fat super too. Saw your post about Yoshi P's remake comments. I want FF7R as the mainline model, but I don't understand why not remake these games at an E33 scale. Modernize the old turn-based world map, etc. That's a good point. And that's what I just don't understand, man. I don't understand why they think that people are going to freak out if there's turn-based in a world map. I don't understand why they think they can't just remake these games at a normal ass fidelity and it not be I don't want to say not be AAA, but it doesn't need to be I don't think it needs to be the type of game that you like put next to Horizon Zero Dawn and be like, this is this big technical open world experience and it has to translate in the way that they did with FF7R. The reason it worked for FF7, and maybe debatably it didn't work for FF7, is because FF7 is popular enough to be its own franchise, right? So really, it was more about making FF7 its own series. But like, I don't think you need to do that for Final Fantasy VIII. I don't think you need to do that for Final Fantasy IX. In fact, I think it would benefit the series to dial back on all of that. They're still traumatized by the reception to Final Fantasy XIII, I know. I believe Final Fantasy XIII is a deeply flawed game, but I also think that the criticisms of Final Fantasy XIII and the way they were phrased and targeted were so bad, and Square Enix took every wrong fucking lesson from FF13 that could possibly be taken. It's actually nuts. Like, they took so many wrong lessons were learned from 13 and like where the series should have gone and what should have happened. It's utterly devastating. And I still feel like we're feeling some of that. So let's go ahead and watch Naoki's Room.
Yoshida desu. My name is Naoki Yoshida, producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV.
I'm going to shrink myself a little bit.
なかなかこうファンフェスのステージでですね、自分自身で MC をやりながらトークステージをやるっていうことが何だったら初めてなんじゃないかなということで、今日は僕の方でスペシャルゲストをお呼びして、トークを繰り広げるというステージをここから約75分ぐらいですかね、行わせていただきます。
I don't know if it's relevant to watch the whole thing.
I think it's probably the first time that I'm here at the FanFest standing on stage, and I'm doing a panel where I'm the MC and I'm also involved in the talk myself. But having this opportunity today, I would like to call on a special guest and give you a special talk session. This should last about maybe 75 minutes.
We'll skim it then.
ゲームのなんだろうこう新しい仕様の紹介とか、そういうことではなくて、こうゲームの開発に関わる人間の、クロストークみたいな形で、ぜひリラックスして最後までお付き合いください。
Yes, so you can't really think about it as showcasing some new game design or game specifications, but rather you can think of it more as just a laid-back chat. さあ、それでは、ナオキズルームなんですが、スペシャルゲストをお呼びしたいと思います。 Okay, so it is Naoki's room, so I'd like to call on that special guest.
Final Fantasy XVII リメイクシリーズディレクター浜口直樹です。いや、ようこそようこそ。
Welcome, welcome.
では席に座る前に一言だけ簡単に、ご挨拶お願いします。
So before taking a seat, could I ask you for a short self-introduction?
Hi, I'm game director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Series. Thank you. 今日はですね、なんか大体こういうステージっていろんな台本回りながらこういうふうに喋ってくださいみたいなこと言われるんですけど。
So for stage events like these, I often have someone give me a script and say, this is what we'd like you to talk about.
もうなんか吉田さんと自由に喋ってくださいと、全くほぼ前の調整もないままもうここに挑んでますので、今日はもう生の声でできる限り限界ギリギリで話していきたいと思いますので、ぜひぜひよろしくお願いします。
But today they just said, go up there and have a nice chat with Yoshida-san. So this
I like
is
his shirt,
as
actually.
close as possible to a real conversation.
It's 14 style. 確かに普通ステージイベントっていうと、やっぱり台本があったりしてね、できるだけこの通りにミスなく、特に通訳があるとね、そう喋ってくださいみたいなの多いんですけど。
So yes, of course, when we do have these kinds of stage events, it is quite often the case that we will have a script. Of course, that's to ensure that there are no mistakes in whatever's been spoken, and we do also do that out of consideration for the interpreters as well.
それやると結構実は緊張しません？間違ったらまずいとか、この段取り通り喋んなきゃいけないみたいな。
But if we do that, wouldn't that make you more nervous? I guess you must be thinking to yourself,
what is my
I don't
expectations
want to
for
make a mistake
Evercall?
here, or I have to follow
they're
what they
definitely
told me
theming
to
it
do.
on 7.
すごいわか
Bro,
りま
there's
す。
no
私も
question.
なんかこの通りに喋ってくださいより、自由にやってくださいの方がすごいリラックスします。
Yeah, completely understood. If they say, please say these things, it makes me quite nervous. But if they're just like, hey, go up there and say what you like, I'm actually a bit more relaxed about the whole thing.
なのでどうせ普段から考えてること以上のこと。
Okay, I gotta say, Yoshi P's hair right now is amazing. Like, genuinely amazing. This guy is 53, and the fact that this one still looks great on him, and two that he even has the hair density to pull it off is pretty damn awesome. So yeah, this hair is amazing.
喋れはしないので、リラックスして自然体でやるっていうのが14スタイルなので、台本なしでいきたいと思います。
Of course, we wouldn't really go cross over a line and say what what usually is on our minds, or say more than that. So yeah, you can just think about it as a relaxed discussion, and that really is 14 style. So I hope you'll enjoy that discussion.
Yeah, he's 53,
た
chat.
だ最悪なのね、通訳の2人だけちょっと最悪だと思うんですけど、よろしくお願いします。
そうね、確か
But I think worst case scenario, it might be quite tough for the interpreters here, but we appreciate your understanding about that.
に。よろしくお願いします。
I'll do my best.
じゃあ、早速なんですが、今日は「ファイナルファンタジー14」のファンフェスということで、セブンファンも多いとは思うので、浜口さん知ってる方多いとは思うんですけど、改めてちょっと自己紹介、キャリアの方とかも含めて最初にしてもらおうかなと思います。
Of course, this is a Final Fantasy XIV fan festival, but I am sure that there are many Final Fantasy VII fans in the crowd, and a lot of you are probably already aware of Hamaguchi-san, but maybe you're not so familiar with his background, so I would like to take this opportunity to ask you, Hamaguchi-san, could you do a quick self-introduction, including some key titles from your career?
でも先に聞いてみるか、
Thanks
セブ
today.
ンファン。
But
Thanks.
let's see a show of
Appreciate it.
hands, 7 fans.
Thank you!
ホームだったね。
Yeah.
Well,
This
yeah,
is
this is like your
this is
home
actually
turf.
something too that a lot of people don't know is just how far back Hamaguchi's credits go. Really, he kind of started out working in CS3's lineage, and then he crossed over into being the CS1 guy. But yeah, actually his first Final Fantasy was 12, and he was a programmer for 12. And then he was a programmer for 13. Then he became the director, I believe. No, he was the co-director alongside Motomu Toriyama for Mobius. And then he became a co-director alongside Final Fantasy VII Remake for Nomura, and then now he's like the main guy for Rebirth and Revelation. So he's been steadily climbing the ladder and proving himself. So yeah. Appreciate you highly.
はい、ではお願いします。
はい、私もうスクエアエニックスに入社して、もう24年、5年ぐらいになりますね。
So it's been like 24, 25 years since I joined Square Enix.
でもう本当にずっとファイナルファンタジーのこうシリーズをずっとこう作り続けています。
And for that whole time, I've just been making Final Fantasy.
Thank you. でなんか一番最初こうスクエアエニックスに働いた時はファイナルファンタジー12をこう開発していました。
So when I first joined, I was working on Final Fantasy XII.
でなんで実は吉田さんのチームのところの多くのスタッフは私の顔なじみだったりします。
Yeah, 13 Mobius and 7
And
Art
so
do share
I
a lot of
actually
DNA.
know a lot of Yoshida-san's team personally from that time.
そうですね、クリエイティブスタジオ3は松野組と松野さん指揮するねチームがそのまま、僕スタッフ非常に多いので、まあ、12だったりタクティクスだったり、そういうチームだから、本当だったらね一緒にやっててもおかしくないですよね。
Yeah, that is completely true. So in Creative Studio 3, we do have a lot of staff who were formerly in Matsuno-san's team, and they have continued to work in our division on things such as tactics. Well, they were from tactics in 12, so I think it wouldn't really be odd if you had happened to join our team, Hamaguchi-san.
そうですね、本当その未来もあったなと思います。私はその後ファイナルファンタジー13をですねこう終わらせる、しっかりこう作り切るっていうところでそっちの北さんの方にチームに移動したので
I'm sorry. The person who just like let out the biggest scream because he said Final Fantasy XIII. That's crazy.
この流れでずっと今このファイナルファンタジー7リメイクシリーズを作ることになったっていう感じですかね。はい。
Yeah, I think that would have been another version of my future, as it were. What actually happened is that I really wanted to see the development of Final Fantasy XIII through to the end, so I ended up joining Kitase-san's team, and that path led me to where I am now, working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake series.
もうこうやって見ると
I'm sorry, but bro should have been on the Versus Epic. I said what I said.
ファイナルファンタジーエリートみたいな感じだね。
Yeah, looking at your career like this, you really look like an elite developer of Final Fantasy.
そう、新卒からこう入ってもずっとファイナルファンタジーのみをこう作り続けていると言ってもはい、嘘ではないです。
Yeah, I mean, it's no exaggeration to say that I joined as a new grad, and then I've literally only developed Final Fantasy from then on.
一時期少しだけQ14の時にこうプレイステーションの最適化がヘルプが欲しいんだって私数ヶ月入ってたこともあります。
Although there was a very, very brief period for Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 where the team needed some help with some optimizations for PlayStation, where I came over for a few months.
それさ、
Nah, it wasn't
多分
13 slander.
僕が入る前だよね。
Okay, I think that was probably before I joined the team, wasn't it?
その前でした。
まあ僕は聞きかじっただけですよ。その僕がジョインする前だったから、まあ一緒にやってた某 K というプログラマーがいるじゃないですか。誰かすぐ分かると思うんですけど。
Yes, I had heard a little bit about this, although it was before I joined the team. But I had heard that there was a certain programmer in the team. We can call them K, but they are quite well known internally.
彼にちらっと話を聞いたら、まあ一緒にこうその最適化手伝いに行ったけど動くわけねえって言ってたのをちょっと覚えてます。
Yes, but I heard from him a little bit about the optimization, and he's like, "There's no way it's going to work."
今のあれですかね、もう過去のことなんでギリギリ発言してもセーフなラインのやつですかね。
I mean, that's in the past, so I think we can probably get away with saying that.
まあ実際だって僕から見てもそもそもだって30万とか40万円の PC ですら動くの大変だった状態だったのが、まあ、当然ね PS3 のスペック特にね直接どれだけハード叩いたとしても、まあ、今の状態では動くわけないなっていうのは、まあ、エンジニアだったらもう当然だと思うんで、まあ、だからこそクライアント全部作り直して新生版を作ることになったのでもあるので、まあ、そういう意味ではすごく Q14 からね実は14に関わりあるっていうことですね。
But yeah, if I take a look at it from the perspective of myself as a games developer, back at that time, you would be running this game on hardware, a PC that would cost maybe 300,000, 400,000 yen, and it would be really tough to get a game running on that advanced hardware and to really optimize that to run on the PlayStation 3 specifications. So I think from an engineering perspective, I could also understand where they were coming from. It would be an incredibly tough thing to do. But I think that's precisely because we made the decision to recreate the client, and then that led on to the development of A Realm Reborn. So I think in that regard, we could say that you, Hamaguchi-san, had a connection with
Wait,
Final Fantasy XIV
am I catching this right? He's saying that like it would have like wait, actually never mind.
1.0.
I'm tripping.
一回途中で私HD のゲームじゃなくてスマートフォンのちょっと運営型のファイナルファンタジーも作ってたことがあって、まあ今回特に14もライブゲームっていうか運営型のタイトルじゃないですか。なんかすごく懐かしい気持ちというかすごく。
I can speed through the Japanese for you.
Single-player-focused standalone games, but one time I did work on a sort of live service mobile game as well, and obviously 14 is a live service game, so working on another game like that, even though very different, was quite nostalgic for me.
コメントを見てたりもするんですけど、1.0 からプレイしてるよっていう方どれぐらいいます？
I've been looking at the comments, but much. Hans, who's been here since 1.0?
ありがとうございます。
Oh, thank you so much.
今コメントでもですね、クライアントが重かったっていう話をしたらいかに重かったかの話がずっとコメントで思い出のように流れてて、その説はスクエアニックスとして大変ご迷惑をおかけしました。本当にすみませんでした。
Yes, but we were just having a chat right now about how laggy and heavy 1.0 was, but people in the chat have started discussing about that, and they started reminiscing about that as well. So yes, we do apologize. Things were quite tough at Square Enix back then.
いやでもなんかそういうなんだろうその当時の時から今に至るまで多分ファンの方っていうかゲーム一緒についてきてくれている方も多分一緒に作り上げてきてるっていう感覚がすごくあるんだろうなっていうのはすごく感じます。
Yeah, but it really feels like with all of the fans and players who've been with us since the old days and have stuck with us all the way through till now, it's really like we're just creating the game together, wouldn't you say?
そうですね。いつも自分プレイヤーの皆さんにコメントを出させていただく時っていうのは、一緒に「ファイナルファンタジー14」を作ってくださいだったり一緒に歩み続けてくださいということがすごく多くて、もちろん開発とプレイヤーって立場は違うんですけど我々全体一つで14コミュニティだと思ってるんでそういうふうに言っていただけると非常に嬉しいですね。
Yes, that's yeah, it really rings true because whenever I make comments to the players, to the community, I always tell them, let's make Final Fantasy XIV together, or let's continue on this journey together. So of course, us in the development team and everyone, the players in the community, we do have different standpoints, but I feel that we are all together in this central Final Fantasy XIV community. So for you to mention that, it makes me really glad to hear.
そんな形で、微妙にQ14 で、僕ジョインする前でしたけど微妙な接点があるっていう中でちょっと今日、コミュニティチームからトークのお題をもらっているので次そっちに進んでいこうかなと思います。
はい。
So yes, as we mentioned, you had a connection to 1.0, and that was before I joined the team, but I still think that you could say that we have that connection together. So now, for the purpose of the talk we're going to do today, we have received a few topics from the community team, so I'd like to proceed on the discussion based on those.
じゃあ一つ目の、トークテーマお願いします。
Let's see the first talk theme.
お、ファーストエンカウンターズって書く。
エンカウンターズっていうのはね、これちょっとゲーム的な感じで表す。
First encounters.
Yeah, when you say encounters, it sounds almost like we met in a game or something.
僕は実は、何回か直接話したこともあるけど、僕はすごい覚えてるきっかけが一個あるんですけど、逆にその浜口さんから、自分のそのに対しての最初のきっかけって何だったかって聞いたことが実はないので、ちょっと聞いてみたいところではあったりします。
Yeah, I do know there were a few occasions where we talked directly, and there is one occasion in particular that really stuck with me in my memory. But come to think about it, I don't think that I heard from you, Hamaguchi-san, what you think was the first occasion. So I'd love to hear that.
そうですね。話せる範囲でちょっと話してみます。
Okay, I will speak to this to the degree that I can.
まず多分私も吉田さんもそうなんですけど、結構若いうちに結構大きい組織を持たされて、責任あるポジションで業務するっていうことになってたと思うんですよね。
I think this is the case for both you and I, Yoshida-san, but when we were young, we were members of a certain position, members of a certain community in which we had a rather a role of some responsibility, shall we say.
名前も同じ直樹じゃないですか。
And we're both.
What? That's so cryptic, dog. When we were younger, we both had like this role. We were in this secret society where we both did this thing that cannot be disclosed. They were working on versus chat. That's why they can't talk about it.
Naukis, aren't we?
結構社内の中でなんかあっちの直樹が何々してる、こっちの直樹が何々してるみたいなのが結構噂になったりするんですよ。
And you get all of these rumors in the company when people are talking. They're like, this Naoki and that Naoki are up to this and doing that.
なんで私に全然何か吉田さんに何か特別な感情があるわけじゃないんだけど、なんかどう話していいのかみたいな時期があったんですよ。
So it's not like I had any kind of, I didn't think really one way or the other about you having not met you, but with all these weird rumors going around, I was like, well, I don't really know how to talk to him.
なるほどね。浜口さんは入社してからずっとスクエニじゃないですか。
I see. Well, Hamaguchi-san, in your case, you joined Square Enix and you've always been in the company since then, right?
で、僕ってスクエアニックスってキャリアで言うと3社目の会社なんですね。
But in terms of my career, Square Enix is the third company I'm working at.
で、しかもこの見た目だから。
And what's more, I mean, come on, I look like this, I dress like this, right?
あっちの直樹は信用ならんみたいなことを言う人たちも結構社内にいたらしい。
From what I hear, there were a group of people in the company who said about me, we can't trust that Naoki.
ちょっと目立つんですよね。
Well, I mean, I do stand out, right?
多分そういう噂も聞いてたんだよね。
So I guess you must have heard those kinds of rumors.
Yeah.
ただやっぱすごい憧れはあって、それこそこのファイナルファンタジーのフランチャイズってやっぱこれまでいろんな
That's actually kind of crazy. But I mean, yeah, you do wear like 12 rings on one hand. In fact, this panel might be the least blinged out that I've ever seen him. And I mean, yeah, if I saw a guy who had like 4 rings on one finger, I'd be like, okay, he's a little sus. But yeah.
そんなプロデューサーだったりディレクターだったりみたいなのが出てこようとしてもですね、なかなか叩き上げというかファイナルファンタジーのから こう積み上げた人じゃないとなかなかこう認めんみたいな空気感があったり。
Is that a tattoo on his arm? It can't be. Not in Japan, right? It's got to be like a temp tattoo or something that he got. What the hell is that?
するんですよ。
Yeah, I mean, but I did really look up to you as well.
It's like a cat, I think.
Well, I mean, looking at the Final Fantasy series, there have been all kinds of producers and directors who've tried to take on the role.
Yeah,
but
it can't be a real
people
tattoo.
tended not
No
to
way.
give them much of a chance if they hadn't come from a background of Final Fantasy.
そこの中やっぱ14で吉田さんはこうやっぱり
I will say, I respect the fuck out of him if it is a real tattoo. FanFest had temp ones? Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes more sense. Because I'm like, there's no way, like, high up Japanese developer who's kind of like face of the company right now has a tattoo. Would not be allowed. Not in today's Japan.
やっぱりこう14をこう指揮してやっぱみんなの信頼を勝ち得ていってでしかも私のこの14のメンバーさっき言ったように松野さん組のもう癖者だらけのこうスタッフが多い中もうそれだけでリスペクトの対象でした私にとっては。
And then you came in, Yoshida-san, and you took on 14, you won everyone's trust, and you took on, that team we were talking about, where a lot of them have previously worked with Matsuno-san. And I would say you could call many of them eccentric, and you went out and you won their trust. So really, just looking at that, it's hugely impressive to me.
まあでもそれだけ歴史が長くてで本当にたくさんのスタッフで作ってきたフランチャイズだから、まあ、当然よそからポッと来て、まあ、僕はどっちかというとドラクエ作るためにスクエアエニックスに入ってるから昨日までドラクエ作ったやつが FF 作るわけねえだろ作れるわけねえだろみたいな一回も作ったことないのにっていうのは、まあ、ある意味自然な反応ではあるとは思うんですよね。
But yeah, of course, Final Fantasy is a franchise with such a long history. There are so many titles in the franchise, and for an outsider to come like me, and especially in my case,
Yeah,
I joined
Yoshi
the
P
company
has one
first to work
too.
on
Yeah,
Dragon
I guess it
Quest.
is to prove that they're
And
staff,
so,
maybe.
For me, then, to be in charge of a Final Fantasy
Or
title,
something
I
like
think
that.
it's perfectly natural to think that there would be some people who would be thinking, there's no way this guy would be able to make a Final Fantasy. Does he really know, like, his stuff?
いやそんな中でまさに今浜口さんが言ったように FF って確かに、まあ、ゲームってディレクターって結局最終的には1人しかいないからやっぱり相当周りの人間を押しのけてというか信頼を勝ち取って上に行くしか方法がないのは確かなんですよ。
But like you mentioned, Hamaguchi-san, if for Final Fantasy, or in the case of any game, ultimately there is only one director. So the only thing the director can do is to gain the trust of the whole team in order to be able to drive them forward.
だからそんな中で、いくつ違うんでしょうっけ？
私今46になりましたかね。
6じゃあ7つ違う。
Oh, so I was wondering, how old are you?
I'm 46.
Oh, so 7 years difference?
だからまあ当時の
I gotta say,
14
Naoki Hamaguchi does not look 46 at all. Yeah, I would assume that he was like, maybe like late 30s. He looks somewhere in his 30s though. But he does not look 46. I think that is crazy. He is literally pushing, pretty sure he's actually 45. Let's look this up. Naoki Hamaguchi age. Yeah, 45. Still though, to be like, getting closer to pushing 50 and he's like still looking that I would assume Hamaguchi is like, I would have assumed that he was like 32. I'd have assumed that he was much, much, much younger. It's very crazy, yeah, to think that Hamaguchi. Okay, so put it in perspective, right? I'm 34. So Hamaguchi is 11 years older than me? But I don't feel like he looks 11 years older than me. I feel like he looks like around where I'm at. He's just, it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, okay. These are like some of the tattoos. Let's hit the translation. This time I'm leaving the room progress to others and running around to meet and greets and such. But here's the tattoo stickers that are always popular in Europe. I feel like they're there every time. Okay. So this is something that happens at the European Fan Fest. Okay. That makes sense. That's very cool. It's cool. Actually, look, he's still blinged out now that I look at it. He's got a bracelet on, he's got a watch on. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rings. 5 rings on that I can see. No, 6 rings actually. Yeah, it's 6 rings. Yeah. And a necklace. And it's just like, dang, bro.
担当したのが37歳って基礎講演でもちらっと言ったんですけど、その時点で30歳になったばっかりっていうことですよね。
So I mentioned in the keynote that when I first started working on 14, I was 37 years old. So that means, Hamaguchi-san, you must have been 30 years old at the time.
でもう目立つんですよ、やっぱり社内でも。
But then, yeah, of course, I mean, stand out in the company.
僕が覚えてるのはその、13シリーズが一段落して、まさにメビウスファイナルファンタジーをこう作る、企画がスタートしてこう開発がスタートしてっていう中で、夜中に2時3時ぐらい、夜中3時ぐらいに会社から帰ろうとして、で正面の入り口とかはもう全部閉まってるので、本当に裏口の裏口みたいなところからしか出れないんですよ。そこでその午前3時にようやく仕事が終わって帰ろうとしてるところで直接差しで会ったの。それが最
Yoshi
初。
P definitely bathes in the bloods of virgins or something. He smokes a ton and operates one of the most popular MMO in history. He shouldn't look as young as he does. That's very true.
So yes, I think back at the time, the first time that I met you it was around that time when...
Am I done with Type 0? Thank you for the super chat, Roy Mustang. No, we might return to it. It just depends. But it seemed like no one cared. But I still might finish it. We'll see.
Your work had just been completed on the 13 series, and then you were working on Mobius Final Fantasy. You were starting the development of that. And I remember it was really late at night. It was like 3 in the morning, and both of us were just happened to be going home at that time. And the front entrance of the company was shut. So there was really only the back exit that was open, and it just so happened to be that both of us were there at the same time.
で2人とも午前3時って聞くとこうボロボロでうわもう疲れたみたいな感じかっていうと実は全然そんなことはなくて。
Of course, if you hear that we were going home at like 3 a.m., you must be thinking that we were just completely drained and out of it. But that's absolutely not the case.
今日もめっちゃ仕事したぞ、明日はこれとこれとこれだみたいな感じでいたらさらにテンション高いんですよ、この人。
But yeah, you were like, oh, today I did this and this and this, and tomorrow I have to do that and that and that.
That's
I
based
think
as
in
fuck,
any
Eric.
case,
I appreciate
you're just
that.
like so excited about what you're doing.
で当時自分の作ってるメビウスファイナルファンタジーのクライアントを帰りですよ、その裏口に帰ってくときにチェックしながら歩いてるんですよ。
But back at that time, you were leaving the office so late at night, but you were actually opening up the Mobius Final Fantasy client that you were working on, and you were checking it.
でってその会ったときに見てください、吉田さんめっちゃいい感じでできてきてるんですって。
And when you bumped into me, you were like, hey, Yoshida-san, you got to see this. It looks amazing.
そっから10分ぐらい結局一緒に こうタクシーに乗るようなところまで歩きながらずっとその話をしてて、いかにこう今作ってるシステムに手応えがあっていかにいい感じにできてるかっていうのをすごい目をキラキラさせて話してくれてて、それが僕一番最初の直接だったのでめちゃくちゃ印象に残ってます。
But yeah, I think it was about 10 minutes or so. We were walking towards the area where we could get a taxi, and I remember we were just so engaged in that discussion.
I love how he fucking reads like stream chat. I think it's so funny. He's like, what did they say? The way he like leans into the laptop. I'm sorry, it cracks me up.
And you were telling me things like, oh wow, this system is so well made. It just looks amazing. And I think I could see that kind of energy and that shine in your eyes.
Also, as like another side note, like the only like, well, I guess I've only ever like really gotten into 2 Square Enix gachas ever. The first one is Dissidia Duellum, and then, well, the first one's actually Mobius. The second one's Dissidia Duellum. But yeah, actually, I liked Mobius. I got into it like really late. So I actually was saddened by the indie service. But it was that Mobius was actually super cool, you guys. You guys need to go back and really look at Mobius. Mobius was basically like legit a like console quality game on a phone. It was actually very cool. Full voice acting in English, by the way, and not just Japanese, because a lot of, you know, mobile games that they put out now, it's like only Japanese voice acting. It had full English and Japanese voice acting. It had graphics that were on quality with the PlayStation 3 game, which may be like, what's the big deal about that? The big deal about that is that it ran on an iPhone 5 and 6. Okay? And it had PS3 quality graphics. And this is before, like, Genshin Impact. Like 5 years before Genshin Impact, by the way. So, yeah, Mobius was actually a really cool game. Very expensive to run, though. Very expensive, because, again, it was PS3 quality graphics. But Mobius was more along the lines of the type of shit they should have been making, rather than, and I'm just going to say it, rather than something like Ever Crisis, which I think Ever Crisis was just dated as fuck. Like, on arrival, it was dated as fuck. Like, the design was just old gacha. And it didn't, like, really reflect everything that had happened in the market leading up to Ever Crisis. Like, we joked about Ever Crisis, like, oh, it's Final Fantasy XV or Final Fantasy VII Pocket Edition. Yeah, but actually, it should have been Final Fantasy VII Pocket Edition. Like, actually. And if they wanted to do gacha stuff in there, that's fine or whatever, but at the end of the day, it should have actually felt like this is a full quality remake, alternate remake of Final Fantasy VII that you can play on your phone. I think that's like actually like what it should have been, and it should have felt like that. But anyways.
So you were passionately talking about this. So that anecdote that I have, it just really left a huge impression on me. And I think that was the first time that we met.
まあ私も覚えてますけど、でもやっぱりそのクリエイターってなんかこう自分がこうお客さんがどういうふうに遊んでくれるかっていうのをイメージしながら、こうどこまでそこにこう熱量とこだわりを持ってこうパッションを注ぎ続けれるかっていうのがやっぱすごく重要だと思いません。私はやっぱそこ結構自分の中のものづくりの根幹にあって、それはやっぱりメビウスの時もそうだし、今のリメイクシリーズも同じで、はい、そこはすごく思います。
Yeah, I really remember that too. But you know, I just feel like when you're a creator and you're working on something, it's really important to think about how the player is going to experience it and have all of that passion yourself and refuse to accept anything less than the best.
Yeah, they do need something that competes with,
don't
like,
you agree?
Wuthering Waves.
I think
100%.
that's really sort of the root of what drives me as a developer as well, both on Mobius back at the time, but also on the remake series.
まあその情熱がなくなったらね、まあ、正直チームをあんまり指揮するべきじゃないかなとは。なんでその熱量って結局伝播しちゃうので、それはねすごい僕も思いますね。
Yes, I think exactly. If you do lose that passion, then I don't think you should be the one who is at the front of the team and driving that team. Because at the end of the day, if you do have that passion, it will spread to the rest of your team.
いやでそう僕は14担当させていただきますってこう発表をそのプレイヤーの皆さんにさせていただいたら誰だこいつって言われその、まあ、見た目も良くないから信用できねえみたいな感じだったんですよ。
I remember as well when I made that announcement that I was going to be taking charge of Final Fantasy XIV, I announced it to the players, and I remember back at the time there were also comments along the lines of, who the heck is this guy? And of course, me having like my appearance, the way that I dress, people were also thinking, nah, we can't trust this guy.
まあでも一緒にね作って信用してもらうしかないと思ってまあやったんですけど。
But I think the only thing that I could do at that time was to make it and make everyone believe me.
でも実は覚えてるのがセブンリメイクシリーズの、1作目セブンリメイクの主要スタッフとして発表された時に、まあ、ネットを見ててモバイルの FF しか作ってねえやつだろうみたいな書き込みを変な話されてるのを見たんですよ。
ありました。
Did he say that twice throughout this discussion? Or did I rewind? Because I feel like I'm having like deja vu. Okay.
But I remember back at the time when you made the announcement for the first title in the 7 Remake series, so Final Fantasy VII Remake, and there were comments based around the staff, the central staff who were going to work on the title, and people were kind of criticizing or kind of pointing out that some of those staff were working mobile staff.
でも僕はどれだけすごいか知ってるから絶対大丈夫と思ってそうまあ周りのスタッフにもそういう話を。
This is like every time I hear about like them and like because I assume most of this is Japanese discourse because that's what floats to the top for them and that's what they read the most of. But every time I hear about like some of the stuff in like Japanese fandom discourse, I'm like, really? Motherfuckers was saying that? Like that was a thing? I didn't even know. Like, I don't know. Because like here, I think in the West, a lot of times people think that like I think a lot of times people think that there's just no discourse in the Japanese fandom or all their discourse is at like a higher level. No, it's like it's about the same as ours, but they just talk about a lot of times they talk about the same stuff, but then sometimes they talk about things that like are just like wholly different. But that's just the nature of social media when anybody can get on the platform and they can make a post and that post can gain traction and then all of a sudden everybody is talking about like the mental framework of one like seriously mentally ill guy who decided to come up with like a dichotomy for like how video games should work and like what things we should be concerned about, and then like 200 other people like start showing up and retweeting and boosting it for some reason because their algorithm like catches wind of it, and then before you know it everyone is talking through the frame of one guy who's like kind of like a little like not in touch with reality. And we're all having a debate that doesn't even need to actually even exist and does not exist. Like it's not even like a real thing to like actually be discussing in that way. But yeah. And it's just funny. And I think that's globally, by the way. Obviously it's not just it's not like a US thing or a Japan thing or a Western thing or an Eastern thing. That happens everywhere. There's a social media platform in which people can discuss. I noticed the grind in Japanese developed gachas versus Chinese and Korean. Games like Uma Musume and and FGO are all about grind for the end game as the main gameplay loop. I think there tends to be a different philosophy for approaching mobile games in Japan and outside of Japan, right? Yeah, I think that the kind of mobile games that Square Enix is making are probably good for their domestic market, but like the global market is Chinese at the moment. You know what I'm saying? It's leaning toward the Chinese gacha. And it's not leaning toward kind of what I think like a lot of the domestic Japanese gachas are doing. So kind of hard to say. FanFest was such a reality check for me. How discourse on the internet isn't real life. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, discourse on the internet is never real. Like it's just one guy who's unhinged, and he makes a post, and because that post is unhinged, it gets traction in the algorithm that wants novelty, so that you'll be like, yo, that's fucking stupid. But also, so that people who are also stupid in the same fucking way will connect with that guy and will be like, holy shit, bro, you are so brave to fucking say that. That was such a great take, King. And then they all retweet it. And that spirals out from there.
してたんだけど、なんかそういう境遇までなんか同じ直樹で似てんなって思いながらちょっとニヤニヤしてたのをすごい覚えてるんですよ。
But yeah, I remember, but I knew how amazing you are and how amazing the team was. So I also told that to the rest. But I think it's just like such a coincidence that we're both Naokis and we were in such a similar position as well.
なんか吉田さんも今その14立て直してこう、まあ、10年10何年ってきてやっぱ信頼を積み上げてきてるじゃないですか。で私もまさにこうリメイクシーズンだけどまさに言われました。その直前モバイルのやつでしょみたいな。でも今やそれこそこうリメイクリバースリベレーションっていうところでこうちゃんとしたローンチスケジュールをこう刻んでるともうメディアとかも浜口さんはどうやってそんなこうマネジメントしてるんですかみたいなむしろ安定の象徴みたいになっててやっぱもうこれって積み上げていくしかないものなんですよね。
Yeah, I mean, you know, you built 14 again from the ground up, and you've been doing that for over 10 years now. And it's now reached the point where it's been 10 plus years for me as well, working on the remake series. But at the time, it definitely was a case of people saying, oh, but you're just a mobile game guy, right? Now standing here and saying, well, it's remake, then rebirth, then revelation, and they're all hitting their launch windows, they're coming out on time. So I now have people from the media, journalists talking to me and saying, Hamaguchi-san, how do you do it? How do you manage your team? How are you doing this? And they're sort of looking at me as being this kind of symbol of stability.
間違いなく、チームマネジメント、タスクマネジメント、スケジュールマネジメントはスクエアエニックスでナンバーワンです。ぶっちぎりこの人が。
Absolutely, without a doubt, this person here is absolute number one in Square Enix for team management, task management, and schedule management.
This is crazy to say too. I feel like typically we kind of attributed that more to Yoshida, right? So for Yoshida to kind of pass that torch to Hamaguchi is crazy. I also think as well, there's an intention here to build up Hamaguchi, right? I think that there is a torch passing that's happening here. And I think that is because it's fairly obvious now at this point, Hamaguchi is probably the one working on Final Fantasy XVII. You don't build up a guy to be like, hey, by the way, he's the best guy in the company. Yoshi P, I want you guys to keep in mind, Yoshi P is not just the Final Fantasy XIV guy. He's not just the Final Fantasy XVI guy. Yoshi P is on the board of directors. This is a Square Enix executive. Okay? And he is building up this guy here on the right. And I don't think that is just to be a good, to be good buddies. That's not to say that it's performative or anything like that. But I do think that there's, I do think that ultimately they are grooming him to be the new face of Final Fantasy, and he is going to be the one working on 17. Right? Yeah, and then obviously we're going to get to that comment in a second here, Black Lion Guard. But I think that's also something you don't say unless it's going to happen, or unless it's like something that the company is considering as well, right?
いやだってまあセブンリメイクシリーズ、まあ3部作ですけど、最近の FF シリーズでは考えられないぐらいテンポよくちゃんとリリースされていくし、ボリュームも含めて満足、そのプレイヤーの皆さんが遊んでくださった時の満足度の高さも含め。
Subtext, what's good, my guy? This is a pretty big cultural shift. Yoshi P and Hamaguchi are both production-centric versus the creative leads the company typically follow. Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting if Hamaguchi and Nomura work together again. And that's what I'm hoping for with FF17. I am hoping that it is a Hamaguchi Nomura production. I feel like they're like Kingdom Hearts fans standing behind me, telling me to fuck off and leave him alone so that he can work on Kingdom Hearts 5. But I would counter those Kingdom Hearts fans by saying there's basically never been a time in Nomura's entire history, 30 plus year, 40, however fucking long he's been working in games, 30-ish years, he has never worked on one video game only. He has never done that. So if you think that Nomura would work on only Kingdom Hearts, I think you're fucking delirious. He would never do that. That's like the one thing that he would actually never do, is only work on one game. And he himself has even more or less stated, if I recall correctly, that he doesn't enjoy only working on one project. He likes to work on multiple things at once. So again, if you're a fan of his, you should know this. You should know this. Like the idea of like, one thing is distracting him from doing the other thing. Yeah, he's perpetually distracted. That's who he is. He's built for it, bro.
含めてどっちもバランス取れた状態であれだけこう矢継ぎ早に出せていくっていうことはスクエニ市場でも結構近年では稀なことというかなので本当にすごいんです。
But I mean, come on, when we look at the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, it's being released as a trilogy, and for you to be able to release Final Fantasy titles at such a fast pace, but at the same time deliver such an incredible amount of volume that such a large amount of players are satisfied, and maintaining that balance, I think in recent years for Square Enix, that is quite rare. So I think that's an amazing thing that you're doing.
In recent years for Square Enix. I mean, not wrong.
ちょっとここばっか話してると時間なくなっちゃうんで次行きましょう。
But I think if we continue on this, we'll run out of time. So let's head on to the next topic.
好きなゲーム。
オーソドックスな質問です。
なんかこう人生で最も影響あったゲームみたいなのってなんかありますか？
Oh, okay, the games we love. Well, how about, is there any title that had the biggest influence on you in your life?
これも結構メディアでも伝えてて、しかも自社のタイトルになるんでちょっとあれですけど、やっぱ私がこの業界を目指したのってファイナルファンタジー6がこうきっかけでこの業界を目指したので、やっぱ未だにやっぱタイトルっていうのはずっと心にあります。
I've given this answer to a lot of media interviews as well, and it is also a Square Enix title, so apologies for that. But Final Fantasy VI is the reason that I wanted to work in games. So
It was a mistranslation. He said versus 13, but they rolled with it.
that always has a special place in my heart.
ただこうよくあるのが同じメディアに同じような質問されてこれ答えると次の翌日には浜口直樹ファイナルファンタジー6リメイク決定みたいなのが書かれるから毎回違いますよっていうのは必ず念を押します。
But every time I give that answer to a journalist or someone, the next day there's an article online saying, Hamaguchi will be remaking Final Fantasy VI. So I also say, no, I am not at the same time.
いやいや、まあ気持ちはねわかるんですけど、考えてもみてくださいよ。規模が半端じゃないんですよ。もう6もそうだし、まあ、8も9も7がリメイクされたんだからリメイクしてくれってわかるんですけど、4部作とかね、下手すると5部作とかになる可能性あるんですよ。
Oh, of course, I understand the feelings of the players, but you've got to think about it. Look at Final Fantasy VI. It's such an incredibly huge game. The scale is it's just immense. And the same applies for other titles like Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX. So of course now, since you're working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, I do get that people would be asking for remakes of other titles. But if we did remake those other titles, we'd probably end up like having to release them in 4 installments, or maybe even 5 installments.
Okay. Okay. I have to push back against this. Not that he isn't right, because he is. If they were to remake Final Fantasy VI in the style of Final Fantasy VII, yes, it would take like 4 installments. If you make it a one-to-one world, if you make it an action game, that's true. The problem is, no one is fucking asking for that. No one is asking for you to remake Final Fantasy VI like you remade Final Fantasy VII, or remake Final Fantasy VIII or IX like FF7. I don't think anyone cares for that scale, actually. I think they would be just fine making it have a world map and making it be turn-based combat instead of making it be action. They really do not need to make it on 7R scale. I don't think that you need to make it so that how many I forget how many, it's a lot though. It's like more than 10 for sure. How many is it? I want to say it's like 14 or something. Yeah, it's 14 playable characters. I just looked it up. There's 14 playable characters in 6. Which is ridiculous. Yeah, 14 playable characters in 6. So yeah, if you made an action game that had 14 playable characters, then yeah, it's gonna take 4 fucking parts. It's gonna take 4 parts. It's gonna be insane. You're gonna have to add in like a bunch of story details to make all of those characters have much more fleshed out backstories and all this other stuff. You're gonna have to make the world bigger in scale and rendered in realistic scale. But the thing is, again, nobody is asking for all that. I'm going to be real though. I also don't care to see FF6 HD 2D, and that might be a hot take, but I just don't care. The Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster is great. We literally don't need anything else. You can't tell me what an FF6 HD 2D remake is going to add to FF6 that the Pixel Remaster did not. Nothing. If we're going to remake 6, it should be in 3D, like actual 3D, but it should not be a one-to-one world scale like FF7, and it should not be action combat like FF7. It should be a world map turn-based game like FF6, and yeah, and then they could make it all in one part, and people would actually love it. Yeah, I think a game the scope of E33 would actually work really, really well for Final Fantasy VI, the fidelity of E33. It does not need to be as big as Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think that's just ridiculous. Um, I think that they've lost the plot with abstraction, that people genuinely do like abstraction. The world map is perfectly fine, dude. It's more than fine. It's one of the best systems for creating the scale of a believable world that's ever been done, right? Like we all intuitively understand that you cannot realistically make an entire world in a video game, right? So you have to abstract and you have to omit things and you have to do scale in order to convey that same sense of size. You don't need to make everything as realistic. Again, you know, maybe this worked for 7 because FF7 is FF7. That's fine. Works for the remake series because 7 is popular enough to support that. Now, there is an argument that maybe it's not due to sales of Rebirth, but that's not, you know, that's not the discussion that we're having. The point is, I forgot the point. The point is, they don't need to do all of this to remake 6, 8, or 9. And not only do they not need to do it, I actually think people would be happier if they fucking didn't. I actually think they'd be happier if Final Fantasy IX Remake was just like Final Fantasy IX remade. Quezert Games, thank you so much for the super. So when you say E33, do you mean full 3D towns that are a little open and then dungeons that are linear a la 10? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. E33 basically is like roughly the same scale and size of, say, like a PlayStation 1-ish Final Fantasy game, but made modern. So its structure is like incredibly similar to that. The world map, the linear dungeons, and the only thing that E33 does not have is like towns on the scale of FF8 and FF9. But I think that given Square's budget compared to something like Sandfall, Square could easily make that happen. So that's all they need, man. That's all they need. They don't need to make them like this is like the most cutting edge realistic thing that ever happened in terms of scale, like they're trying to do with Final Fantasy VII. You know, I don't think I would want that for FF8. I couldn't even conceive 3 games for Final Fantasy VIII. Most towns in PS1 FF games were not more than like 5 screens, yeah. But if you actually look at the visuals on those towns, it's pretty fucking crazy. But I'll go a step further and I'll say, here's what they could do about those towns to not make them too crazy. Whenever you go into towns, there's a fixed camera, just like back in the day. And so you don't have to worry about all that other stuff happening in the town. It's a fixed camera. You can't. So you're not really noticing, like, oh, hey, where's all the NPCs? It's not loaded with like all these side diversions and all this other content that we feel a need to like fill in the map with. No. Fixed camera. You go in houses, fixed camera. Worked great with Lost Odyssey, by the way. And so, yeah, I think that's the way they should do it. Josh Z, thank you so much for the super. They are definitely psychologically traumatized from the FF13 companies. I have core traumatic memories that create patterns of behavior too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because they are afraid, Josh, I feel, of making something a bit more linear and a bit more restricted, and it's not going to be the biggest, openest game ever that they think that they need to create now in order to succeed. I really do think that the scope of the older Final Fantasy games is fine. And I know people don't really like E33 mentions when talking about FF, but like sometimes you do have to mention it because it's just like, damn, bro, like they literally did the same structure as like a PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy game where 90% of the side content takes place after you beat the game, and most of the game itself is a very linear experience with like a couple of like side diversions here and there. And there's exploration along the linear path, but you're still going down the linear path. And they feel like if they made that game today, like a PlayStation 1 style FF, they think that it would get like completely wrecked by Western media and games journalists. But I think E33 kind of paved the way for them in a way that like, hey, actually you can do this and it's okay. It's okay. I think that like, because people will say, why don't people like E33 mentions? Because people will often say like, oh, Final Fantasy should just be E33. And I think that that's like the wrong takeaway. When I played E33 and I was doing my review of the game, kind of a traumatic time actually, because that's back when I was suffering from insomnia and I was staying up for days straight. But back when I was doing my review for E33, my thought was more along the lines of like, oh, they need to make a Final Fantasy game like E33. But I was actually more like, I'm relieved. Someone has finally made a game like this, and I hope that Square Enix plays this so that they realize that they can go back to making a game structured like this and people won't care. People won't care. They'll actually love it. And then when the game came out and everyone received it kind of in a similar way, I was like, oh, thank God. It wasn't just me. I disagree. I think E33 is great, but Final Fantasy's style of storytelling wouldn't benefit from moving most of the side content to afterward. Respectfully, I have to ask, have you played any Final Fantasy before 12? Because that's like, that's how they work. And it's also how 13 works that way too. But actually, I guess you could say, with the exception of 15, 16, the MMOs, and Rebirth, that's the way most Final Fantasy works. Yeah, like that's what like all the old games did. What are you talking about? Most of the old games were like super, like you could do side diversions, but they weren't like, oh, there's so many side quests and you can fool around with like. E33 ripped off old FF structure-wise. Yeah, it's literally old FF. Like that's like 100% what it is. And I think people are okay with that structure. And not only do I think people are okay with that structure, I think they actually fucking liked it. Because everyone, when that game released, everyone was like, yo, actually this is kind of tight. I like all the side content being post-game. Being like the thing I do after. And it's like, yeah, we used to do that. We used to do that. We used to be a society, a civilization, even. And then everything collapsed when modern side quest slop got introduced. The modern side diversion is I don't want to say it's a poor way of doing games because it works really well for a lot of games, but I think that the necessity of forcing it in is just bad. Forgive me if this is personal, but how did you beat the insomnia? I've been dealing with it for several years. I still struggle despite taking sleep hygiene classes. Dang. Well, I started like I do have like a wind down routine. I basically probably do everything that they teach you in like the sleep hygiene classes. And if that fails, maybe ask your doctor about like a trazodone prescription or something. Knock you out real good. Doesn't disrupt your REM cycle as much as like other stuff and not a controlled substance. Maybe that'd help you. I don't know. Also, don't eat 4 hours before you go to bed. Yeah, working out definitely helps. But make sure you don't work out like right before bed because that also disrupts your sleep. Okay, let's continue.
このまあ、ファイナルファンタジー7のリメイクを作っててやっぱこう思ったんですけど、もう本当に私は本当にチームに恵まれて、やっぱりこう同じこう3部作10年ぐらいをかけて作っていくところについてきてくれたチームがやっぱいたから、やっぱ完成まで、まあ、まだリベレーションローンチしてないですけど、もう目前ですけど、走り切れたとはやっぱ本当に思ってるんですね。
I really think, having worked on the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, that I am truly blessed with a wonderful team. They've stuck with me for over 10 years working on 3 separate games that are a remake of a single game, and there's not many that would do that. You know, we're not quite at the finish line yet. Revelation isn't out, but we're almost there, and I'm so grateful to them that we've been able to make it this far.
これがなんかこう一作終わるたびにチーム解散してもう一回リビルドだってなったらもうとてもじゃないけどやっぱ作れなかったなと思うんで、まあ、それは本当に私恵まれたなとは思うんですけど、それぐらい結構なんかタイミングとなんかこうそういう奇跡というかなんかがないと、なかなかこうその期間をモチベーション持ち続けてなんかパッケージタイトルに付き合ってくれるクリエイターっていうのがやっぱ揃わないとなかなか厳しいので、そんな簡単に私6やりますみたいなそんな軽いノリではとても言えないっていうのがあります。
And if, for example, we were doing something where every time we got to the end, we released one, we said, okay, we'll have a separate team, we'll look for new people, then I'm not saying it would have been impossible, but it would have been close. So yeah, I'm truly blessed with such a great team, and I do think it's, well, not only is it a matter of timing, in a way it's a miracle that we were able to get these people willing to stick around and willing to, you know, keep up the motivation to work on so many of these standalone titles back to back. So that's why I can't just sit here and go, yeah, I'll remake 6, because it's not quite that easy.
いやだってそれをね言った瞬間数年飛ぶっていうのを確定するのでスパーンってね。
But yeah, of course, as soon as you say that, then you know several years just flies by like that.
ちょうどいい話題になったんで、もうこのまま次のトピック行くとつながるんで言ってください。
But yeah, this kind of connects on to the next topic, so let's take a look.
まさに今話が出てるその。ずっと FF を開発されてはいるけど、ある意味7リメイクシリーズではついに一番上の責任者っていうところにこう上がってって、やっぱりこうやりがいって変わっていくもんですかね、立場とかによってシリーズの中でも。
So of course, we've both been involved in the development of titles in the Final Fantasy franchise, but having been now in the position where you have become the top person responsible for the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, does that change kind of your perspective of, or how, what you feel it is to make Final Fantasy to you?
これ多分吉田さんも通ずるところがあると思うんですけど、確かにその、プロデューサーになったりディレクターになれば権限とか決めるもの力っていうのは当然持つとは思います。
Yeah, I imagine you'll be able to relate to some of this as well, Yoshida-san, but obviously the higher up you go, say as producer or director, the more power and influence you have to make decisions.
でもこう、私がじゃあ12で最初にこうプログラマーとして入った時ってなんか エフェクトのファイヤーのエフェクトとかをずっとちまちまちまちまずっと作り続けてたんですよ。
For example, when I joined and I was first working on 12 as a programmer, I just spent ages chipping away and really fine-tuning the fire effects.
で上になればなるほど決める権限もあるけどそれを進めるために周りの人たちを動かしていくとか同じ方向に引っ張っていく業務っていうのがどうしても増えてくるんですね自然と。
And the higher up you get, obviously, the more you can make these decisions, but the more work you have trying to get other people to follow your lead and to come along with you.
だから純粋に一クリエイターとして何かに対して没入したいみたいな気持ちは多分昔の方が多分表現できて、今はそこを多くの人たちをさらにこうパフォーマンスを上げながら同じ方向で一緒の作品を作っていくためにそこに注力するというところがそこは変わったなと思うけど、ただまあ結局出来上がった作品に対してのその思いはやっぱり一緒なので、そこのなんかいい作品を作るって思いは全く変わってないですね。
So when we're talking about being able to really get immersed in your work, get stuck in as an individual creator, that's something really satisfying. And I think that's probably something you're able to do a little bit earlier in your career. And then, you know, as it switches, the satisfaction comes more from leading a team and getting them to be able to exercise their own abilities and take that. So I think that's really the biggest change for me. It doesn't change how I feel about the games and the fact that I want to make something amazing.
でもまあ、スクエアエニックス特に規模の大きなゲームを作ることが多いので特に職人気質のその開発者もすごく多い中でやっぱり自分のアイデンティティって例えばエンジニアだったらコード書いて、まあ、誰も動かせないものを動かしてやろうとかすごくこう自分で実作業をすることにものすごくフォーカスする、まあ、もちろんそういう人たちがたくさんいるから成り立つんですけど巨大なゲームもすごいゲームも。それ切り替わっていくわけじゃない。自分が手を直接コードを書く時間っていうのがどうしても減るじゃない。そこはあまり抵抗はなかったんですか？
So of course in Square Enix, it's a company that often makes very high-profile big games, and due to that, there's a lot of developers in the teams who are really kind of like experts at what they do, and they're really at the top of their game. So, for example, there are some engineers who would be the only people in the team who could create code, and no one else would be able to match what they do. And those kinds of engineers, they really just focus in on their work and try to create things which no one else would be able to. But I think because we have so many of those kinds of developers in the team, that's precisely why we are able to produce a complete title in the end. But in the case of maybe like an engineer or a programmer who was originally coding so much and then their position changes, suddenly there's that switch. In your case, did you feel apprehensive or did you feel that you didn't really like that switch?
もともと私この業界目指したのってなんかこういう役割で働きたいっていうよりはやっぱり多くのゲームファンの人々になんかずっと心に残るようなそういうエンターテインメントを作る作品に関わりたいっていうのが原動力なんですよね。でその中で私はまあ理系の人間でもあったのでプログラミング得意だったんでそこから入ったんですけど。なんか別にプログラムである必要はないというかそこの今その開発に対して自分が最大にアウトプットできる役割であれば正直そこにこだわりはなくてで、まあ、流れの中でいろいろチームマネジメントもすれば企画もするしみたいな、まあ、そこは本当にそのチームにとって一番その開発にとってなんか最も効率がいい方を自分のアウトプットが出せればそこがモチベーションかなと思います。
So I didn't originally have a specific role in mind when I wanted to get into the industry. My main motivation was that I wanted to be involved with creating these amazing games that are really memorable and stay in people's hearts. I just happened to be a fairly logical person, so I ended up going into programming. But that wasn't necessarily what I always wanted to be. I just wanted to be in the best role that would allow me to contribute the most to what I was doing. Didn't really matter how that was. So I'm happy to help with management, with coming up with ideas, and wherever is most effective for me to be within the team to help the game, essentially.
いや、それはまあ僕もどっちかというとゼネラリスト、自分でゲームデザインもするし、 販売計画も立てるし、何でもやるんですけど、そうやっていろんな役割が出てくるのにコード書く時間が減ってなお、描画も物理もシステムも、クライアントもね、なんであんなハイレベルでジャッジできる、一線級のエンジニアたち、今でも現役でだってキャップをどこまでに、スペックのキャップをどこまでするかとかってやり合うことになるじゃない。それはどうしてるの普段。すごい疑問なんですよ。
Yes, but I myself as well, I think of myself as a generalist. So I am a games designer, but I do sales planning and I do pretty much everything. So I have many different hats and I do many different things, I have many different roles. But then having less time to code, there are also other things that you have to think about. So like rendering system, the client, and for when you go up for those like really top-level engineers where they have to think about where to cap the specs, they start like making arguments and such. And how are you able to manage everything on your end? I'm really doubtful about how you manage this.
そこは多分プログラミングもそうだし、多分ゲームデザイン的なところもそうだし、
Yeah, the panel's on YouTube.
なんかアセットのワークフローもそうなんですけど、なんかやっぱここって常に最新というかの情報に触れてないとなかなかやっぱりコミュニケーションやりにくくなるっていうのは実際あると自分も思ってるんですね。
Well, I mean, this is the case for programming, for game design as well, probably, and things like asset workflows. But
What'd you
unless
search
you're
for?
staying
It's
up
the
to date with the most
FanFest
recent
Day 2 in
information, then
Berlin.
it's really hard to communicate with others.
私はこれがいいのかどうかわかんないですけど、時間で解決というか、私あんまりそんなに睡眠長い方じゃなくてですね、もう体力の許す限り時間で解決するっていうのをやってます。
I don't really know if this is a good way of doing it or not, but I am essentially just solving the problem by throwing time at it. I don't sleep very much, so as long as my physical health allows it, I shall resolve this issue with time.
人間にはね等しく24時間しかないので、活動時間を伸ばし睡眠時間を減らす。別にねそれであんまり苦じゃない。
熱量がありますからね。
But yeah, of course, us being humans, we only have 24 hours each day. So if we do need to do more, we can extend the time that we do have to work on things and then cut down on our sleep. And personally speaking, I'm not really fussed. It doesn't really bother me.
何の参考にもならない話だった。
This can't be me. I'm sorry. If I get under 7 hours, I'm fucking cooked. There's no point of me even existing for that day. I'm gone. I'm a princess 100% of the way, bros. I have to sleep, and yeah, I can never be a salaryman pilled. It's just not in my blood.
But I think that's probably not going to help many people watching this discussion.
そろそろトークテーマとしてはちょっとクロージング気味なんだけど、最後にちょっと2つお聞きしたくて、ファイナルファンタジーシリーズフランチャイズ本当に長く皆さんに支えていただいて間もなく40周年で、そのファイナルファンタジーに関わっていて、いやこれ本当辛いんだよなっていうことと、めっちゃこれすごいやりがいすごい楽しいっていう、両極を、どっちから先でもいいです。話してもらえると。ちょっと待ってね。
Yes, we are nearly going towards the end of our talk topics. But one thing I do want to ask you, Hamaguchi-san, is, of course, Final Fantasy is a long-running franchise. It has a very long history, and we're almost going to be at our 40th anniversary. So I'd like to ask you two things, looking back on your career working on the franchise. What was like the most tough thing that you felt you ever experienced? And on the flip side, what was the most rewarding or fun thing? You can answer in either order.
Andrew Brown, thank you for this super chat. If Hamaguchi is leading FF17, I think it'll come out sooner than people realize, sooner than people think. given the speed of the remake series. Yeah, you'd like to think, right? I guess the only difference between that would be that a brand new game would have all new assets, and you'd imagine that they'd be moving over from Unreal Engine 4 to 5 or something. But hopefully it would be fast, right? Because I think people were saying back when Final Fantasy XVI was coming out that, like, oh, 16 won't take long because Yoshi P is making it, and Yoshi P is fast. And, you know, kind of reality behind the scenes is that 16 still ended up taking like 7 years. So I still think that ultimately 17 will probably take like 7 years. But my estimation is that it's already been in development for 4 or 5. So I think we're going to hear about it sooner rather than later, for sure. A lot of SE developers have talked about their lack of sleep. As someone who also suffers from this, it makes me sad for them, and even more respectful of the work they put in. It's insane. Yeah, man. And part of this is not just Square Enix, honestly. This is just literally the state of Japanese work culture, right? So, you know, it's not even like, oh, Square Enix specifically makes them, or like puts them in an environment where they have to work like that. And like, it's kind of just like the nature of just, again, Japanese culture and the work environment there. Black Maid Zero, thank you. I'm the best princess. I need to hear that because usually I'm too busy being the worst princess, bro. Would 17 in fact affect any other projects? I don't think it would necessarily. Or I mean, I don't know, honestly, but I couldn't imagine it would.
そうですね、やっぱ一番こう辛いなっていうかこう乗り越えなきゃなっていうのはやっぱりこうまあ14もそうだと思うんですけどこう特にこう HD のゲームもやっぱものすごいこう膨大な人数でものづくりをするんですね。
So let's see, the hardest thing, the thing that I had to overcome, I'm sure this applies to 14 as well, but on the standalone games that we make, we generally work with a big, big team.
で、まあ、当然みんないいゲームを作りたいって集まってるんです。
And of course, everyone there is there because they want to make a great game.
でもやっぱりみんなそれぞれ考えも違ったりなんかどこがなんかこう一番のキーなのかっていうのもやっぱイメージが違ったりする場合があるんですよね。そうするとやっぱりそこを同じビジョンに合わせて
That guy in the audience, like with the camera, that was so funny. Like they just zoomed in on him and he was like locked in, and then after he realized the camera was there, he's like, that was really funny.
かないといけないっていうところにすごくマネジメントに力を必要なんですよ。
But of course, everyone has their own way of thinking about things. Everyone has different ideas of what the most important thing for a game is. So trying to get everyone to have that same vision and to be aligned there, that's what's really difficult about management.
なんでそこはやっぱり一クリエイターとしては本当は面白いことになるためだけに自分のエネルギーとかパワーをつぎ込めたら最高なんだけどこうやっぱチームでこうものづくりする以上チームみんながちゃんと同じ方向に向くところにこう労力をかけるっていうのは必要経費なんでこう仕方ないんですけど、まあ、そこはすごく大変だなっていつも思いながらも、まあ、でもその先にあるこう作品をいいものにするというもののためにこう日々頑張るっていうところはあります。
So as a creator, what you really want to do is you want to spend all your time and all your energy on making something that's really fun and really great, but at the same time, because you're a team, you need to make sure that you're all headed in the same direction at all times. So that, I think, is what's quite tricky. It's also, you know, it is what it is. It has to happen that way because of how development works. And at the end of the day, it hopefully does lead to something that's wonderful.
まあ特にね先輩たちも含めて実はこう一つのチームにしなきゃいけないっていうのはね結構タフですよね。
But yes, I do understand. In your case, you have to get other people in your team who happen to be your senpai or senior colleagues, and you have to get them to follow your vision and work under your direction. So I do appreciate it's tough.
じゃあ最も 強いやりがいみたいなところ。
やっぱり
Oh, and so what was the most rewarding thing you had?
やっぱりやりがいはもうまさに今日のこのファンフェスの皆さんではないですけど、ファイナルファンタジーって本当にグローバルで多くのファンの方々から注目されて支えられているっていうこの環境でものづくりができるっていうことが本当にクリエイターとしてこれ以上のもう喜びはないと私は常に思っています。
And well, the most rewarding thing is right here, obviously here at FanFest, but all of the Final Fantasy fans around the world to be able to make and develop games with all of this support. I don't think there's anything that could make me happier.
なんか、Thank you. なんか昨日ミート&グリートでファイナルファンタジー7の T シャツ着て聞いてる人がいて、なんとなくそんな感じがしましたみたいな。
Yesterday at the meet and greet, there were a few people who turned up with Final Fantasy VII T-shirts, like I had a feeling.
非常にそういうのはもう本当嬉しいですね。はい。
So I mean, pretty happy about that as well, to be honest.
まあそうですね、本当に巨大なフランチャイズだからプレッシャーももちろんあるんですけど、最初から数百万人の方に期待してもらえる状態でものづくりができるっていうことは何事にも代え難いやりがいではあるので、本当そこはファンの皆さんのおかげですよね。
But yes, of course, it is a huge franchise. So working on the title is, I know that there's a lot of pressure, but being able to create something that millions of players are, have high expectations towards, and being able to deliver that, of course, that is extremely rewarding. And we appreciate the support from the players as well.
そんな浜口さんのね、直近最高のやりがいが詰まっているファイナルファンタジー7リメイクシリーズ。いよいよ完結ということで、せっかくねベルリンまで来ていただいたので、ぜひちょっとこの場で最新作紹介してもらってもいいですか。
But of course, as you mentioned, Hamaguchi-san, the most rewarding thing you feel is working on the franchise, and here we have the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, which is almost reaching its conclusion. I think it would only be fair that you've taken time out of your busy schedule, that we provide this opportunity here on stage in Berlin, if you could showcase the latest installment.
じゃあちょっと少し紹介させてください。
Okay, so allow me to talk a little bit about Revelation.
なんか私ちょっと聞いた情報によると14の方って本当に若い方から私と同じ40代、むしろ50代の方とかもいっぱい幅広くプレイされてるじゃないですか。なんで結構若い人がそもそも7知らないですみたいな人も結構いるんですって私言われたんですよ。
Before I came here, I was told, there's so many people who play 14, young players, people like you and me in our 40s and 50s, but the younger players, they don't know what 7 is. That's what people said to me.
そうありがたいことに14が初めての FF ですっていう方結構いらっしゃいます。
Yeah, I think it makes me happy to hear, but there are quite a lot of people who say that 14 was their first Final Fantasy.
ちょっと今日はファイナルファンタジー7についてちょっと全体を少し紹介させてください。
So in that case, I did prepare a sort of overall introduction about Final Fantasy VII for you all.
はい、ファイナルファンタジー7はですね、1997年に発売された RPG です。
So Final Fantasy VII is a legendary RPG released in 1997.
で、主人
Isn't that Unk Gaming though?
公のクラウドとその宿敵のですね、セフィロスとの戦いを軸に多くのプレイヤーに衝撃を与えた作品です。
And it's an RPG that really left a deep impact on a lot of players as it follows the iconic hero Cloud Strife and his pursuit of his nemesis Sephiroth.
で、壮大なストーリーですね。で、魅力的なキャラクター。でマテリアシステムによる自由なカスタマイズなどですね、やっぱ当時ではさらに映像としても革新的で本当に世界中で多く愛される作品となっています。
And then, of course, you have the absolutely epic scale of the story, you have the wonderful cast of characters, you have the high level of customization that was available through the Materia system, and then at the time you had the absolutely revolutionary graphics. So all of this resulted in this game that's sort of really loved all around the world.
はい、でそしてですね私たちが今この「ファイナルファンタジー7」をですね、現代にもう一度蘇らせようとして作っているのが「ファイナルファンタジー7」のリメイクシリーズになります。
And then here, of course, we have the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, which is our work to bring Final Fantasy VII back to life once again for the modern era.
でこれはですね単純なリマスターの作品ではありません。
And this is no simple remaster.
当時のプレイヤーの皆さんがですね想像していた世界観だったりキャラクターたちっていうのを現代の技術で再構築してより深くゲーム体験できる作品として蘇らせることを目指しています。
What this is us sort of rebuilding the entire world and game on a much deeper level to create what the players of the original games actually imagined, the world and the characters that they were seeing in their mind's eye as they played.
先ほど14から入ったゲームユーザーがいますっていうのと同じようにファイナルファンタジー7にもですね当時プレイしてなかったユーザーの新しい人たちにもこのファイナルファンタジー7の魅力を伝えたいっていう思いも込められています。
So, as Yoshida-san mentioned, there are people out there who have started playing Final Fantasy with a later installment, say, for example, Final Fantasy XIV. And what we want to be able to do is to be able to introduce these newer players to Final Fantasy VII in a way where they can really understand what made it so great.
はい、なので、世界観だったりですねキャラクターの描写っていうのをより拡張してですねより没入感のある作品として、生まれ変わらせています。
So the world, the lore, the characters, the way all of these are depicted is even more in depth, even more exhaustive, and really doing a deep dive on
Explain
all
the
that.
stream title. You'll see.
そうすることで、次の世代にですね
We're coming
こ
up
の
on
ファイナ
the
ルファ
part,
ンタジ
I
ー
think.
をちゃんと受け継がせていくっていうことが
It's toward
この
the
プロジェ
end.
クトの出発点です。
And so the whole reason that we kicked this project off was because we wanted to bring Final Fantasy VII to the next generation.
はいはい、でちょっとプレイされてる方も多くいるとは思うんですけど本当にちょっと簡単にだけリメイクシリーズの4つの魅力を伝えさせてください。
And I do appreciate that a lot of you have probably played it for yourself, but please let me just quickly go over 4 of the main things that we really think make Final Fantasy VII Remake great.
まず1個目はワールドマップですね。ワールドですね。
So first we have the world.
やっぱこの「ファイナルファンタジー7」っていうのはですねもう当時すごい当時のポリゴンではありますけどもう本当にスケールの大きいワールドマップがあってですねそれを実際により今のディテールで感じさせるっていうことを目指しています。
So back in the day, the original 7 had this huge world map. I mean, in the graphics of the time, of course, but we really want to recreate that sense of scale.
はい、でさらに最終作の「リベレーション」では、ちょっと一部画像も出てましたけど映像も出てますけどハイウィンドウでですねワールドマップを自由に飛び回ることもできます。
And in the upcoming Revelation, I think some of it's in the video up there, you will actually be able to explore the world from the airship Highwind.
はい、で次がですねバトルです。
And the next battle.
やっぱ原作のコマンドの RPG っていうのをオマージュしながら新しい今のゲームらしくアクション性も取り入れた爽快感と戦略性を融合させた新しいバトルシステムとして実現しています。
So the Final Fantasy VII Remake series combat system draws heavily from the turn-based, menu-based system found in the original game, but also combines that with action to create a unique battle system that's really exhilarating at the same time as being strategic.
そして3つ目が絆です。
And third, bonds.
キャラクター同士のですね絆の関係っていうのを物語だけではなくて、連携などバトル要素にも取り入れゲームのデザイン全体で表現するっていうこともこだわっています。
And this is talking about the bonds between characters. But we don't just want to explore those throughout the story, we really want to carry that through into the entire game design. So, for example, through the different skills that they can use in battle.
はい、でキャラクター同士のつながりをですねストーリー体験も含めてストーリー体験ゲーム体験合わせてしっかり体験できるっていうところが本当に魅力になっています。
And I really think that one of the real strong points of the remake series is the way that you can experience these deep connections between the characters through the gameplay experience and the story.
でもストーリー最後はもちろんですけどストーリーです。
And so, of course, lastly, we have the story itself.
はい、でもちろんオリジナル版が持つ魅力的なストーリーを大切にしながらも、今作ならではの新しい要素っていうのも加えながらより深く世界観ストーリーを表現しています。
And of course, while we are really making sure that the original story is treated with the utmost respect. We are also diving in deeper, expanding the lore and the world and lots of things around that.
はい、これは4つがですね、このリメイクシリーズを支える大きな4つの要素になります。
So these are really the 4 pillars that we have supporting the Final Fantasy VII Remake series.
はい、簡単にですけど、ファイナルファンタジー7の作品と、リメイクに関しての魅力を紹介していきました。
So anyway, that was a brief overview of Final Fantasy VII and the Final Fantasy VII Remake series.
そしてです。Thank you. で、ここからです。ここからです。
And this is where we start.
今日はですね、せっかく皆さんの前でこうやって貴重にお話しさせていただくタイミングがあったので、このファンフェスのためにですね、オリジナルのファイナルファンタジー7リメイクシリーズのトレーラーを作ってきました。
And since I have this opportunity at FanFest to speak with all of you, I thought, well, I should make you something special. So I have an original Final Fantasy VII Remake series trailer for you.
まだ公開してないやつ。
公開してないというか、このイベントのためにだけに作りました。
So this hasn't been released publicly yet?
No, we made this for today.
これまでってなんかリメイクのトレーラーですとか、なんかリベレーションのトレーラーですっていうのはやっぱ作って本当に今回はリメイクシリーズのトレーラーになってるんで、私作って最後完成したのも見てちょっとうるっとしてきましたもん。
So obviously we've made a lot of like remake trailers or rebirth revelation trailers, but this is the whole series trailer. So after it was done and I was watching it back, I sort of teared up a little bit.
じゃあ再生してもいいですかね。
Okay, if we could play it.
じゃあお願いします。
Just look at it all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it, it's still going strong.
It may look that way, but in reality, it's barely hanging on.
Shit kind of got me emotional, bro. Reminder that you're looking at 7 years of your life
World's in trouble.
when you look at this.
For a while.
So what are we
And if you count the whole journey of Final Fantasy VII, you're really looking at like 30 years of your life. Maybe your whole life, right?
We need the planet, and it needs us. We have to rise up, fight back, defend it from this terrible threat.
Damn, man.
I'll make this quick. Good night.
The sky's the limit!
You won't regret this.
I heard you're having second thoughts.
I feel trapped.
Be it this, be it that, go on and ask the cat.
I know we can figure this out.
I plan to serve my village once more.
Aerith, is there anything I can do for you? I'm security.
Cloud, whatever happens, I'm here for you.
And I won't let you down. I promise.
Damn, bro. That punches you in the feels so hard.
Yeah, でも改めて本当によく作ったと思います。
But yeah, looking back at it now, I do think
This is actually interesting. I've never seen them highlight this in an FF games marketing lead up. the largest world in the series. They've never actually explicitly said that before. Really interesting. I don't doubt it because Rebirth was already kind of there in terms of size, and this is even bigger than Rebirth. But yeah, like for them to actually like flat out say, no, this is 100% the largest world in the series. Very interesting. Bigger than 15? I feel like Rebirth was already bigger than 15. Like Rebirth is so big. You know? So I would say that Rebirth is already the biggest one. Do you think Rebirth was the biggest game in the series before Revelation? Yeah, I do. I think Rebirth's world is way bigger. Way bigger. And has way more stuff in it. Way more.
It's just, it looks amazing. You've done such a good job making it.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
いや、これなんかこうつなげてみるといろいろまた違った感情が出ます
Largest
よ
in the
ね。
remake
I
series or
feel
the
like
entire
when you
series?
put them all
Both.
together like that, it just something feels different about it again, you know?
はい、気に入っていただけたら非常に嬉しいです。
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that.
さあそしてねいよいよ完結編。
はい。そうですね。はい、これが今見ていただきましたけど、いよいよですね、来年の春ですね、このファイナルファンタジー7リベレーション発売になります。
Yep, so as you just saw, it's just around the corner. Final Fantasy VII Revelation will be going on sale spring 2027.
はい、もう本当にシリーズ最大規模でですね、もう飛空艇ハイウィンドウで飛び回れるのもさっき見せましたけど、もう3部作目にふさわしいスケールのゲーム体験になってます。
And you know, as I was saying before, it'll be on a bigger scale than ever before. You'll be able to fly all over with the high wind. I really think that we've made something worthy of the final chapter of the series.
はい、あとさらにですね、バトルにもですね、フィッツというウェアを切り替えれる仕組みが新たに加わりました。
And there's also the fits system, which will allow you to change into different outfits for battle.
さっきちょっとメディアの方とインタビューしてた時に、やっぱティファの新しい衣装がこうサマーゲームフェスで発表したんですけど、それが非常にこう評判が良くて、なんか今回のコラボレーション込みでなんかティファの衣装って移植されませんかねって言われました。
So, I was just speaking with a journalist earlier, actually, and they said, oh, you know, the Black Mage Tifa outfit that you showed us in SGF, that's so cool. How about that collab with 14? Can we get that gear?
いやいや使わせてくれるんだったらねえ。
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to use it.
Yeah.
It's okay to clap. It's okay to clap.
コラボレーション今回もきっかけにいろいろ長くやっていければと思いますので、本当に近い距離で私のチームと吉田さんのチームやっていきたいと思います。
Anyway, I hope this collaboration marks the start of a long and fruitful cooperation between our two teams. So hopefully there'll be much more in the future.
はいありがとうございます。じゃあそろそろクローズしつつ、
Bro, the fucking insane thing is that there has been no collaboration between the two Final Fantasy teams before this. That's actually the thing I don't understand. That's what I don't get. You're the two teams in the company that work on one franchise, a franchise so big that they have two teams for it. And they're like, yeah, we don't fuck with each other. It's crazy. My hope, though, is that maybe with Final Fantasy XVII, we can see a little bit of collabing at a deeper level. My hope is that Natsuko Ishikawa can provide the writing for Final Fantasy XVII. That would be my top pick. Some people are curious on the stream's title, and I think we're coming up on the moment that makes sense. of why I titled the stream that.
改めて両者のねクロスオーバーも簡単に最後ご紹介して終わっていこうかなと思います。
Thank you. So it will be brief, but I'd like to give a little bit of a recap of what we're doing in terms of crossover.
ちょっと立ちながらやりましょうか。
Oh, let's do it while standing.
はい、改めて、昨日発表させていただいた「Beyond the Life Stream、ファイナルファンタジー7リメイクシリーズ」チームの皆さんとですね14チームががっちり手を組んで、8.01 からレイドスタートしてまいります。
So once again, as we announced the other day, we are doing the crossover raid series with Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Beyond the Life Stream. Both teams are fully hard at work together on this crossover, and the raid will hit starting from patch 8.01.
まあもちろんね3部作まだ完結前なので、逆に言うとまだその8.0 リリースまでに時間があるから、7リメイクシリーズのね全2作をまずねプレイする時間いっぱいあると思うんで皆さん。
But of course, the concluding chapter in the trilogy has not been released yet, and there is still time until 8.0 as well. So for those of you who haven't played the Final Fantasy VII Remake series yet, there's plenty of time to get started.
で実際ね、リメイクシリーズ2作遊んだ上で、レイドの第1弾をプレイしてその後完結編が来るという完璧な流れですよ。
I think it's just like the perfect flow. You can play the first two titles in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, then the raid hits, you'll be able to play the first tier, and then the final chapter of Final Fantasy VII Remake series releases. Isn't it just perfect?
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
さあまあ我々ファイナルファンタジーシリーズのフランチャイズ同じ仲間としてもう一つね7の方、まあ 8.0 の前にねちょっとやらせていただくコンテンツもございます。
But of course, we were working together as allies for the Final Fantasy franchise, and with the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, there is something else that we're working on which will get released before 8.0.
まあこちらも昨日発表させていただきましたが、キーバウンドブローラーという、コンテンツ、ゴールドソーサーに新たに実装されるコンテンツになってます。
And I announced this in the keynote as well. This is Keybound Brawler, which will be coming to the Mandeville Gold Saucer.
まあぜひどんなコンテンツかは昨日の基調講演のライブストリームを見直していただきたいですが。
But of course, I would like you to take a look back, maybe at the archive of the live stream of the keynote presentation to see what sort of content this is.
まあもちろんねさっきアウトフィットの話出ましたけど、こちらも報酬ご用意させていただいております。
But we did discuss outfits earlier, but we have prepared rewards here as well.
イエーイ。
Yeah.
まあ7リメイク
I
シリ
do
ー
think
ズを
it's like a bit crazy though, because no soldier uniform, and wait, do they already have that in 14 somewhere? Do they already have Cloud's uniform somewhere? Or Aerith's? I'm surprised they only did Barrett and Tifa.
これを着て気分を上げてレイドに挑んでいただけたら
There's Advent Children Cloud? Okay.
But yes, it would be great if you could play the 7 Remake series and then get these rewards, wear them. I think that'll get you in the mood, and then you can take on the challenge of the raids.
他にも報酬
結構そのステージの時でもこうお伝えしたと思うんですけど、だいぶこう報酬の慣習多かったんですけど、なんかマウントとか乗り物系もなんかやりませんでしたっけ？
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this during the keynote as well. You sent quite a lot of rewards over for us to review. But am I right in thinking that there was a mount as well?
What? That's tight.
そうですね。とにかく多数の監修をしていただきましたんで、まあありがとうの気持ちでいいですよ。発表していただいてももうはい。
But yes, you did kindly offer a lot of support reviewing many different rewards and assets, so I'm really grateful, yes, if you could introduce this.
はい、というわけでね、マウントのね、方もございます。
But yes, we do have a mount.
That's pretty cool. Can I get Vincent Valentine as a mount?
キーワードブローラーは最大4人で、マルチプレイできるので、まあフレンドとか FC の仲間とちょっとねキータッチ苦手だっていう人もみんなでカバーし合いながら遊べるようになってますし、コツコツやればいろんな報酬手に入るようなバランスになってますので、あまり気構えずに気楽にプレイしてもらえれば手に入るんじゃないかなと思います。
But yes, Keybound Brawler is designed to be played with a maximum of 4 people, so maybe you can get your friends joining in or people from your free company, and you can just take it easy, play together. It's designed so that there is a good balance there, so you don't have to be constantly hardcore playing it every single day to get the rewards. As long as you just put in some steady effort, you should be able to get all of the rewards, so I do recommend it.
はい、ありがとうございます。これ、
Oh, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you two, but I think that is all we have time for today.
もうなんかミンフィリアをちょっと思い出したよ。
This brings back memories of Minfilia.
Dog. Respectfully. Rest in peace. Mintphilia.
Please return.
じゃあ
To some closing words.
じゃあまあせっかく2日間ね本当にプレイヤーの皆さんとのコミュニケーションも含めて14のファンフェスに初めて参加していただいたんですけど、いかがでした？ステージも含めて。
So once again, it's your first time at a 14 fan festival. Could you give a few words to all of our players? How was it standing here on the stage and sitting here and doing this talk?
もう本当に皆さんの熱量をこう肌で感じて、ファンフェスいいなって改めて思いました。
I mean, having the opportunity to meet with so many people and have this opportunity to speak as well, I really get a sense of the passion from everyone here, and I'm like, FanFest is pretty nice.
Thank you.
いやじゃあこれで直樹のダブル直樹の部屋はねクローズとさせていただきますが、別に答えなくていいんですけど、さっきいろいろ FF のこうタフさとかやりがいとかってちょっと話してもらったりしたじゃないですか。
So yes, I would like to bring today's double Naoki's Room edition to a close, but I would like to ask, you don't have to answer this, but we did talk just a while ago about the tough things and rewarding things about working on the franchise.
多数のコメントもね流れてたんですが、分かったと浜口直樹よと6とか8とか9とかリメイクとは言わんと。
But I saw a lot of things in the comments. They were like, okay, I get it. Naoki Hamaguchi, I'm not going to ask for a 6, 8, or 9 remake.
17やってほしいなって書いてあったのが、あなたにとっての最高の評価だと思いますので、そういうコメントたくさんありましたよというのをお伝えしておきます。
But there were comments along the lines of, I want this guy to make Final Fantasy XVII. So I think that's probably the highest praise you can get.
答えなくていいから。
But you don't have to answer.
答えたら。
さあそれでは、皆さん本当に長時間ありがとうございました。Thank you guys.
He was gonna say something. They cut him off.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us for this double feature of Naoki's Room. Coming up next will be the cosplay walk after just a little break. See you later.
Bro, Hamaguchi was literally gonna say something, but they cut him off. That's that's crazy. Okay, but let's talk about that, right? Because I feel like that's actually pretty significant, and hence the title of today's stream for everyone who was wondering. We have an endorsement right there from Naoki Yoshida himself for Hamaguchi for Final Fantasy XVII. Now, obviously, this is not confirmation that Hamaguchi is going to be working on 17. However, it does bode pretty well. They're not going to just mention that, I feel, for no reason. It feels like, and it's been fairly obvious, they are building him up to be the new face of Final Fantasy. And I do suspect that they are going to have him be the director of Final Fantasy XVII. That's actually kind of upsetting that they aren't working on 17 already. Brother, I would say that 17 has been in development for a few years now, if I had to hazard a guess. I do not think it is the way that people are assuming that it is. What people are assuming is that Revelation has to be finished in order for them to begin Final Fantasy XVII. I think that Final Fantasy XVII has already begun, and once Revelation finishes, they are going to be able to dedicate more time and more resources to 17. But I think it is already underway. If I had to hazard a guess, my assumption would be that it probably began development in like 2022. I know that sounds specific. Let me explain. Final Fantasy XVI began its development a year before Final Fantasy XV launched. It was also announced 4 years after Final Fantasy XV. If Final Fantasy XVII is on the same timeline, and we have no reason to think that it isn't, then Final Fantasy XVII will have started production probably a year before Final Fantasy XVI released, and it will probably be announced 4 years after Final Fantasy XVI. There is another issue that's going to be happening at the end, or really at the beginning of next year. That is that there will be nothing Final Fantasy announced once Revelation comes out. Resonance will already be out by then, and we won't have anything to look forward to. By this point, they will almost have to announce what's next for Final Fantasy. At that point, they will probably tease Final Fantasy XVII. Now, to what degree they're going to show off FF17 is subject to a lot of speculation. I don't know if they're going to go into a great deal of detail, if it's just going to be a visual works trailer, or what. But they're probably not going to let us go a very long time and not know what is happening with the franchise. There's actually never been a point in time where we did not know the next thing on the horizon for FF. Whether that is when they announced the entirety of Fabula Nova Crystallis, and that happened almost immediately after Final Fantasy XII released, and before Final Fantasy XV released, they teased the Final Fantasy VII re-trilogy, before Rebirth even came out and the re-trilogy continued. They were already announcing Final Fantasy XVI, right? Actually, Final Fantasy XVI was announced the same year as Remake Part 1, right? So, there's just never been a time. I mean, even if we go back further than that, right after Final Fantasy VIII was announced, they had the Square Millennium event, or not announced, but after Final Fantasy VIII was released, they had the Square Millennium event, and they announced Final Fantasy IX, 10, and 11. So, we've never gone a long period of time without knowing when the next major FF is coming. It stands to reason for me, after Revelation is announced, we're going to have this big void, this big mysterious thing. Again, Resonance will be out, and Evercold also will be out. So everyone is going to know what's next for Final Fantasy. Next year is the 40th anniversary. Yes, that is a great point. And it seems crazy to me that the 40th anniversary wouldn't have an announcement of what's coming next. Even if it's just a logo, even if it's just a Visual Works teaser and it's all CG and we just know vaguely who's working on it. Final Fantasy becomes a whole unk next year. Final Fantasy as a series will have a Norwood 4. Deep recession. And plenty of things to talk to the therapist about. So, I think by that point, we're going to see Final Fantasy XVII. And I do think that although they're like, hey, this isn't meant to be taken so seriously, I think it is kind of serious. I want to highlight here that Naoki Yoshida is not just a guy who works on video games. He is not just a director and producer of Final Fantasy XIV. He is not just a guy who worked on Final Fantasy XVI. He is on the board of directors. He is a suit. He is an exec. He's friendly. We love him. He works on games directly. But he's on the fucking board. He's as an exec of an exec as you can get. And so for him to say, hey, we think that you'd make a hell of a Final Fantasy XVII, brother. At least that's what the comments are saying. That's kind of a really big deal. That's kind of a really big deal. They don't say things like that haphazardly because they know that motherfuckers like me are going to make stream titles like, I think we found the director of Final Fantasy XVII. They know that journalists are out there and they're going to make their titles as well. They know what we're going to do. However, yeah, they know ball. They know ball. But, so for them to say that, and then also not take any questions after, is them essentially pitching the idea. They're doing what they call soft launching Naoki Hamaguchi as the director of Final Fantasy XVII. That's what I think they're doing. And I'm kind of okay with it. I think that Hamaguchi has, in my opinion, he has just been a really phenomenal director. He has made sure that games are on time and on budget. Rebirth is the biggest AAA game I've seen developed in that short of amount of time ever. It's utterly insane what they've managed to do. And Revelation is going to be even bigger than that and on an even shorter time frame. It's crazy. I also think that when you look at how well received the Re-Trilogy has been in terms of, at the very least, gameplay. Of course, story is very contentious, but I think a big chunk of the story being contentious has to do with the fact that they are handling Final Fantasy VII And yes, they do make some questionable decisions with Final Fantasy VII. I'm not going to deny that. But ultimately, I think with a brand new story, especially, they'll probably have some brand new people on their writing staff. I don't know if they'll reuse Nojima or not. I imagine that 17 might have like a very fresh writing team or just be fresh creatively. And that's not to say that Nojima's like a problem or anything, because obviously he's wrote some of the best stories ever. I'm just imagining that that's what's probably going to happen. And if you have any apprehensions to 7R, then I don't know if they would necessarily apply to 17's writing in the same way, because I imagine that it's going to be different people, we assume. And so I think 17 can be really interesting in that way. Nojima can still be senior story designer, just not scenario writer. Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine that would be like kind of his position there, is that he'd be like an overseer, but probably not in the trenches himself, writing all of the scenes and coming up with the story and that sort of thing. Yeah. I like Final Fantasy XVI's writing, except for the villain. Yeah, I feel like the moment Ultima was introduced, the vibe immediately died. But of course, that's like 6 hours in, so the vibe didn't last long for me. But yeah, once Ultima came onto the scene, I was like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, checklist is like really crazy, because if you think about checklists, like trophies are a checklist, like literally, like they are like the most literal checklist of checklists. But then motherfuckers will be like, oh yeah, I platinumed the game. Too checklisty. I'm like, bro, trophies are the ultimate like checklist. They're a meta checklist for things that you're supposed to do to complete in-game checklists. Like if you don't like checklisty designs, you should never platinum any game. Because all platinum trophies are the biggest checklist. Also a checklist that's not even necessary to enjoy the game. And oftentimes it's a checklist that makes you not enjoy the game. Yeah, do this thing 20 times. Like a lot of trophies are just like, wow, that was so not fun to actually get. Like that was actually not fun for me to do whatsoever. But I did it because it's on the checklist for me to get the biggest like platinum checklist that said I did all the checklisty things that you can do in the game. So while I understand complaints about checklist game design, you better have like less than 5 platinums, let's say, if you're going to complain about checklist game design, because if you enjoy getting trophies, you are a checklist motherfucker. Like, that's objective. That is not just my take. It is a checklist. And it's a meta checklist too. So the game's not even forcing you to checklist. It's you checklisting. That being said, yeah, I kind of think that the game not telling you what to go or what mini games to do or anything like that is actually a good thing. But I also think too that like, yeah, checklist merchants are like, they're being like a little too crazy about it because, yeah, I wish I could turn off trophies on Steam. Yeah, me too. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. This is like the one thing I agree with Nintendo about is that I don't think trophies are necessary. In fact, I think they can actually be bad for video game enjoyment sometimes, because people get so caught up in trophies that they just are like, they do content that they hate. And I'm like, why are you doing content you don't like? Because you get a thing at the end of it that says you completed all the checklists. Why are we doing this? You know? Forget checklists. You shouldn't even have to play the game. Just watch someone complain about it and argue online. True game. I mean, that is true gaming in 2026, bro. That's what gaming is. Am I excited for Beast of Reincarnation? Absolutely. So, yeah, I do think that Hamaguchi is going to be the director of Final Fantasy XVII. I think that this is a little more than just like a compliment toward him. I think it's a sign that, hey, we're eyeing you. The fans are eyeing you. Or rather, we did eye you. And you've already been working on it on the side. And so, yeah. But another thing that people have to keep in mind is that Creative Studio 1 and that team, Revelation has people who are concept artists, right? What are those concept artists doing right now? What are the scenario planners? What are they doing right now? Because keep in mind, Revelation releases in less than a year. That game's basically complete right now. They are polishing it and making it presentable and debugging it. But Revelation is more or less in a complete state in the sense of content production, more or less. They're wrapping up. So you have this team, big team, and you have to ask yourself right now, what do you think that team is working on? Right? Because Revelation is at the home stretch. And there's a lot of people that I feel like are being cycled off of that project and probably on FF17. Yoshi P teased Evercold setting 1 year before it even got announced. So we can assume that he's doing the same here to create hype. Yeah. The writers could have begun working on 17 2 years or more ago even. They don't need to be there for all the development. Right. Right. Like if you're a writer, for example, a scenario writer, you don't need to be sitting around while they're debugging the game. You know what I'm saying? Like while they're doing like QA and like polishing the game up before launch. You can move on, right? Anyone working in concept art, like a lot of artists basically, you know, because they're not like still like doing mocap right now, right? They're not still doing like, oh, we need these animations to be done because the game's like, yeah, we don't have any animations. And like, okay, so like asset creation, right? Like obviously they still have some people like on hand for that, but like you don't need like the whole team there for asset creation. True, Revelation scenario was done right before TGA 2024, according to Nomada. Right. Right. And so if the scenario for Revelation was done 2 years ago, well, okay, that's a lot of people whose jobs they're finished. So what do you think they're doing? And this is also a thing too, is that people aren't realizing that they are working on this stuff simultaneously. Like they're working on planning for Rebirth, for example, while they were working on Remake. So development on Rebirth didn't begin until after Remake finished, but planning on Rebirth actually started once Remake came to a close, right? So you see, they already have a pipeline in place where they finish one game and then begin on the next one, right? So it stands to reason, bear with me here, what if they're just treating Final Fantasy XVII like Remake Part 4? You see what I'm saying? Like they're literally planning it while finishing up Revelation, transitioning the team members in the same way. maybe reusing some of the tech. It might actually be Unreal Engine 5 if they have to. And then cycling those team members on, and then they're able to finish Final Fantasy XVII in a reasonable amount of time. Right? Wouldn't that make sense? And that would allow them to develop 17 pretty fast. And maybe they can work on 18 even. They're working on Versus 17. Based as fuck. That'd be great, though. I hope they're getting a decent break after Revelation. Yeah, I know. These guys have been working for over a decade straight. It's actually like really crazy to think. Yeah, pipeline would be Revelation, Kingdom Hearts 4, 17. Yeah. And that would be that'd be awesome. What about the Switch 2 port of Final Fantasy 15? I doubt that would even be handled. I mean, maybe it'd be handled internally, but that doesn't have to be handled internally, and that certainly doesn't have to be handled by an A team. But also, Creative Studio 1 didn't have anything to do with 15, so they wouldn't be involved in that anyways. If anything, Creative Studio 1 would be involved in a remaster of 13, but I don't think that 13 Remastered is being handled internally either. I think 13 Remastered is being handled by a third-party company. They're outsourcing it for sure. Because I don't think that there is a good reason for them to handle 13 Remaster internally and take up their A-team's time. Just doesn't make any sense. We want Final Fantasy 13 4? Bro, who the fuck is we? Who the fuck is we? Wasn't 15 on Luminous engine? I thought the engine was dead. A rebuild for Switch would have to be a full remake on Unreal or anything else. No, not necessarily. I mean, you know, they have the source code. They can port it. You can pay a company to port shit. Like you know, they can port it for sure. So I don't think it's like a you know, something that they can't solve. 13.4 versus. Okay, maybe we do want 13.4. What do you think of the idea outside of the main development team? Square should do a dedicated engine development team like Capcom does for an in-house engine. They've done it many times and it's failed almost every single time. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Square Enix sucks at making engines. Honestly, yeah. I don't want them to do it again. Just stick with Unreal, bro. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Square is the kind of company to look you straight in the face and offer you FF2 remake. Based. Engine development is kind of a mess. And I just don't know. If they were to develop a new engine, I would want them to develop it for a new IP. And I know this is kind of like Forspoken, but I'd rather them develop it for a new IP first and make it a proven engine that way. And then if things go well, they could use it on a Final Fantasy game. But I think that Final Fantasy is in such a dire state that they should probably not take like literally any chances at all. I think that they need to make 17 a home run. And so as a result, I feel like tech is something that you can be very safe with, and it's okay. And I think that they should be really safe with the tech on 17. The HD 2D games use Unreal Engine, right? Yeah, they do. Yeah, 17 on a tech level should be played very safe. We've seen FF play not safely on a tech level, and that's how we got 13 and 15 in the state that they were in. So Rebirth is a fine Unreal Engine game. It just needs better lighting. Lighting is the only issue. Yeah, I pretty much agree. And I think that the new mod really proved that, is that like most people would not complain about how lackluster those games look if the lighting wasn't so fucking ugly. And the shader injector mod does so much to fix the game, but honestly, there's a lot of stuff that it can't do just because the lighting choices of the game that are baked in are just bad. And like, unless you have access to the game's source code, there's no fixing it otherwise. So there's limits to what you can just inject externally. So unfortunately, you know, some parts of the game just look like that. And yeah. What the hell is going on in YouTube chat? There's some crazy stuff. Thanks, Mr. Smiley. I appreciate it. It is crazy to me that the engine CS3 uses doesn't seem to be shared with the rest of the company. Well, the engine that CS3 uses is just like FF14's engine that's been modified basically to suit their purpose. And FF14's engine is evolved from Crystal Tools, and it has some elements of Luminous in it. It's very strange, like the whole chain of like evolution of that engine. But it wouldn't really make sense for anyone outside of Creative Studio 3 to use that engine, because it's such like a weird thing. Basically, the only reason they use that engine is just because they have so much experience in working with it, and they didn't want to transition to something that they didn't have any experience with. Would you be okay if they reused FF13's art style mixed with FF7 remake for 17? I mean, FF13's art style is just the modern FF art style that kind of started with 8. I don't think that there is anything like, unless you mean like environment design, but the way the characters look is kind of just like the way the characters started looking in 8 and 10 and onward. So, I mean, yeah. I don't know if I would want it to look like a previous entry anyway. I'd want it to look like its own thing for sure. You know? I would want it to be unique. What the hell are y'all fighting about in YouTube chat? I can't even keep track of it. I know I'm unking out, but I miss pre-rendered backgrounds. You are unking out. And I also miss pre-rendered backgrounds. But honestly, more than pre-rendered backgrounds though, I miss fixed camera angles. I'm okay with 3D. 3D makes more sense to use nowadays, but I actually do miss fixed camera angles, because I think that there was cinema in those angles, bros. I like to see a modern high-tech aesthetic in 17 as opposed to a strictly fantasy setting like 16. I mean, yeah, I'm a big hater, obviously, But I don't want them to go back to like pure medieval again, just because I feel like I've seen that before. And I think once we hit FF6, we kind of opened Pandora's box in terms of like Final Fantasy art styles and worlds, where after like with 6 onward, it kind of became cool for FF to not have like a standard setting anymore, for it to not have like a medieval setting in that way, or for it to change up its level of like, you know, of tech and just really be profoundly different each time. And then we hit 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and like, you know, you really started to change aesthetics quite a bit. And really started to go in very different, you know, very different settings. So I don't want it to go backwards in any sense. I don't want it to go back and be like, oh, like we should do medieval again. I feel like no. And even 9, I feel like is like a very unique interpretation of medieval. Right? Like 9 is its own unique medieval world, inspired world. There's not really another medieval game that you can point to and say, oh, it looks like Final Fantasy IX. It doesn't. But I feel like with 16's art style, it's like, it is just kind of a medieval world, and there's big crystals, and that's kind of the thing that sets it apart. But there's not really much that I feel like is distinct in the way that I would care for. Yeah. Shadowbringers and Heavenward is probably the best settings they have ever made. Yeah, I agree. I think that Stormblood also was really interesting setting-wise. Hell, I think Dawn Trail is interesting setting-wise. Even though Dawn Trail itself may not be. But, yeah, I do think that Dawn Trail setting-wise is pretty cool. Like, taking Final Fantasy to Latin America? That's pretty crazy. Yeah, 14 has, like, really interesting settings. And then again, I just feel like Valestia was like, I'm a big ass hater, I know, but I just feel like Valestia was just like not interesting. Like, yeah, there's nothing to Valestia that makes me interested in it. Like, it just, for me, it landed as like one of the lesser interesting settings. I know that will upset some people, but it just didn't land for me. Otherwise, I could say something else, but I'd be lying if I didn't, you know. It just did not land for me personally as like a super interesting setting. Summons Night Sky Prince in Chatley's VR is straight up artistically unimpressive. You should fight them in the world. What do you think? Actually, we talked about this last stream where I was saying that I think that the game would be so much more interesting if summons were something on the map, maybe even unmarked, and you're just like walking by a lake, and then all of a sudden Leviathan comes out of the lake, and then you can fight Leviathan, and if you win, then you get like the summon materia or whatever. And I think that would have been like a much more interesting way to have treated summons than the Chadley thing, which is just and I like the game. I love Rebirth. I stand by my positive review of it, but making that in particular revolve around Chatley in VR is just beyond disappointing to me. Like, you don't want like putting summons into VR is just not cool. Is not interesting game design like whatsoever. Especially when you have a world that fucking big. You have a world that's that big and that interesting, and you put summons in the VR. Why? I don't understand. Yeah, I get it that it would have taken more time to naturally integrate them in the world, but anything great takes time, so. I'm tired of the same summons being in FF. I want brand new summons to surprise us. Yeah, but like the summons are like the only thing holding the brand together right now. Imagine if 16 had like brand new summons. Would people recognize that as Final Fantasy? I don't know. 12 also kind of like went in that direction a bit, so. So I wonder, and honestly, this is not a loaded question. Since you're changing heart on 16, do you still stand by your review? Do you like? Yeah, no, I haven't really changed on Rebirth at all. Everything I said about it in the review, I feel mostly still stands. But I don't think I really changed my heart too much on 16. I just came to terms with how I felt on it. Even my review of 16, if you go back and watch it, like literally the whole review, like the entire time, I think the only positive thing I say is that I basically just say that the voice acting is really good. And then almost everything else that comes out of my mouth afterwards is like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then at the end, I was like, yeah, I thought it was pretty good, I guess. In fact, I think I actually have a line in there where I basically say, I like this game despite the fact that, like, everything I'm about to say is a criticism of it in this entire review. I think I say something like that in there.
Of Final Fantasy XVI. This game had a tremendous amount of hype behind it, being worked on by Square Enix's Creative Business Unit 3, headed by Naoki Yoshida, who is the producer and director of Final Fantasy. To see Creative Business Unit 3 do even better on their next. The fact that some of this game looks like the pre-rendered movies of the old days.
I don't feel like going through this whole thing. But anyway, I said it somewhere in there. I thought it was okay. This was 14 years ago, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, you did say along the lines of, there isn't a game I love so as much while also having so much to criticize about it. Right. And so I don't think I really like switched up on it, at least in my head. It's just more like I came to terms with, if I have this many criticisms of a game, I don't think I liked it. Like, I have to be honest with myself. And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, I have to be honest. Like, it didn't land. But Rebirth, I still mostly feel the same way about. I still think it's one of the best FF experiences that you can have. And one of the better games in the franchise that they've ever made. The story is still wacky as shit and has a fuck ton of problems. But it's still a really great game. And it deserved its score, and it deserved its Game of the Year nomination, and hopefully they can make this story not be as silly as it feels in many places, but it's still an extraordinarily high quality game. Yeah, it's still the best Final Fantasy that we had since 10, without question. It still has the best combat that we may have ever seen from the franchise. So yeah, outside of some highly questionable story stuff and maybe some repetitive open world stuff, I would still say that Rebirth is an incredible game, and I still stand by most of what I've had to say about it. And yeah. Say what you owe 16 is in my top 16 Final Fantasies. Yeah. Yeah, easily the best combat in FF. Yeah. It's that and FF10's combat for me. Those are my two favorites. Yeah, I'm not counting on the story to end in a way where I walk away and I'm like, oh my god, they surpassed OG with this story. I think I would be okay to walk away and be like, well, that was good. It didn't end bad. It felt pretty good. I liked it. I think I would settle for that, honestly. If they do find a way to make me be like, damn, they surpassed OG's story, then I think that would be even better. I'm not counting on it, but if they did it, I would be like, this is amazing. So hopefully that's where things will go, but yeah. Rebirth battle system is unique too. Nothing in the industry like it. Yeah. There is no game that you can be like, oh, Final Fantasy VII Remake is like this game. No. There's no other game like it. There's no other game even close to being similar, really. It's its own thing, wholly 100% of the way. Which is what I think they need to keep doing. I don't think that the breakthrough for Final Fantasy is going to come in just copying someone else's homework. Which I think they think that, but at least that's how it appears sometimes. Think FF7 with 16's combat. Alternatively, though, think FF16 with 7R's combat. I personally would have enjoyed it a lot more. Beast of Reincarnation is about to be the first 7R, like, yeah. Will I play it when it comes out? Yeah. Okay. We're gonna end the stream here. Let's rate Super Butter Buns if you're on Twitch. I think that's a great idea. We've never rated Butter Buns before. So let's rate Butter Buns. And I'll see you guys all on Friday. Okay? Love you so much. Take care. Peace, guys.